good morning. It is a Monday edition of Glenn Clark Radio. I'm Glenn. He's Griffin. You're going to ask about my voice, and I don't blame you. Truth is, and I've told you this before, this is what happens when you spend your weekend with 9-year-olds and 7-year-olds. You need them to do something, and in order to get them to do it, you can't say, boys, do it. You have to yell it.
They're that bad.
That's the reality. And then the kids say, why do you always yell? And you feel like you're being gaslit. Like you feel like you're legitimately going to end up in a mental institution.
This is yelling?
Kids are like, dude, Dad, you don't need to yell. Yeah, I do. Because the first 3 times I say it, you don't hear it. So yes, this is me. This is my voice today. We're going to do our best to power through it. I was hoping that maybe I would start talking and it would just be there. I'd be like, hey, that's cool. That worked out for the best. But that's not the case. This is what I got, and you're going to have to deal with it. So, sucks to be you.
It doesn't sound that bad.
It doesn't sound great either. Yeah. Coming up on the program today, we will.
It's never been great, you know.
So. Thank you. Coming up on the program today, we will discuss the Ravens' blowout win over the Broncos. We'll check in with Steve Wyche, NFL Network, who was in town. Chris Bumbaca from USA Today was in town. Of course, it's Monday, so we'll be joined by Femi Ayanbadejo and by Jeremy Conn. All that coming up on the program today. Thank you to those of you that hung out with us for Project Gameday. It was an uneventful Project Gameday, frankly. It was good to have everybody together. The whole gang was back, which was nice.
Well, briefly.
Yeah, well, right. And they just ducked off, said goodbye. Myself, Rita, Femi, Josh Charles from the streets of Toronto, where he's working, KZ, Steck, the whole crew. And we got a quick turnaround next Project Gameday. You can, if you missed that show last night, then after this show ends, then more of me. What could you more could you ask for in life? You get some of me here, but you can have more of me there. So you can go listen to it or watch it today, and then come join us Thursday night immediately following Baltimore-Cincinnati for the next Project Gameday, PressBoxOnline.com/gameday. It is all brought to you by BetYard AI, as well as the Green Turtle Bet Park Sportsbooks, Easy Pass, and also helpmygamblingproblem.org.
Doesn't affect us. Dennis Allen was fired just now.
I mean, it's kind of a mess down there. They just lost to the Panthers, so like, and they had
Panthers getting coaches fired.
They had Derek Carr back, so like it's kind of
maybe that's the guy you should
kind of brutal. Yeah, I mean, apparently Michael Thomas thinks so. I didn't know how much he hated him. That was rough. Michael Thomas, if you missed it, went off on like a tangent on Twitter about how much he hates Derek Carr. It was
after he got Chris Olave almost murdered. That was.
I mean, I feel like that thing. I also need to know. Whatever, Dennis Allen, I'm indifferent towards. How could I have a possible opinion about it? But remember, there were Ravens fans that said, "Don't sign Lamar. You could just have Derek Carr as a bridge quarterback." I just want all of you jackasses to remember that. How insanely stupid the discourse was. I know we live in a time of insanely stupid discourse. Like, I understand. We're about to have an election tomorrow, and the discourse couldn't be any dumber. I understand. But sometimes it's important that we remember the specifically insane discourse. And during the Lamar Jackson contract era, the Lamometer, there was some truly batshit discourse. And at the top of that list was just let him go and sign Derek Carr to be a bridge quarterback. Detached from reality types of S. Did you guys watch Colts-Vikings last night? They're not playing the same sport. Remember how hilarious it was? God, somebody I like, too, was trying to make an argument about Sam Darnold as MVP earlier this year. Like somebody that we have on regularly. Was it Clark Judge, maybe? I think it might have been Clark. I love Clark. Great guy. But it ain't just him I'm not trying to pile on Clark. Because there's a lot of people that were just, it is bottom of the barrel stuff. Well, the Vikings are winning, and who saw this coming from Sam Darnold? He could be, no, he couldn't. He's not as good at football as these other guys are. Like, it's fun. It's a neat story. Jared Goff is a neat story. He's completing a lot of his passes. It's very efficient. Jared Goff doesn't play the same sport as Lamar Jackson does. Like, you can't watch these two guys and think that one is anything like the other, which doesn't mean that Jared Goff isn't having a great season. He is. But they're nothing alike. We just do this. Sam Darnold was an MVP candidate. That was a legitimate thing that people were trying to push. People with brains.
Well, for 3 weeks or whatever it was.
No, for 3 weeks, Sam Darnold was having a nice season. He wasn't an MVP.
If you kept it up.
No, not even. Because we all knew, if you watched one game, that the story wasn't about Sam Darnold. Watch the games. And I did. I finally watched, and I said, oh, I see what's going on with the Vikings. They can be competitive. They have an incredible offensive line, Justin Jefferson, and a great defense. Joe Flacco ran into last night. That was unfortunate for him, and we'll see what the Colts do moving forward.
Collinsworth hates him.
What, Joe?
Yeah.
I don't know if he hates him.
I mean, he was just tearing into him every time that Joe threw an incompletion.
I really was not. I was apparently not paying close enough attention to that to even notice. Because
then he was effusive about Sam Darnold, and it was like,
well,
what are we
that's
doing?
also comical.
Exactly.
If that's what he was doing, then that's comical.
He threw more picks. Than Flacco.
It's not germane to the topic.
And Darnold's interceptions
But pretending like Sam Darnold is having some sort of Sam Darnold, the bar is so low that we're doing the bit where, like, if he looks competent, wow, this is amazing. Move the goalposts. Oh, this is incredible. I can't believe this man is capable of functional quarterback play, which is all it is. It's just functional quarterback play. I don't know how I got here. What the hell was I talking about?
Fired.
Oh, yeah, it's your fault.
Well, it's news.
Talking about Dennis Allen. I think I was promoting Game Day.
Well,
I think that's literally all there was.
I waited until after the.
Are we sure?
Yeah.
I never know with you.
After the read.
Anyway, yeah. So Game Day. We're back on Thursday. Ravens win. Glory be, Ravens win. There really isn't. By the way, I enjoy trying to do 5 plays tomorrow. This is the reason why we ended up getting rid of 5 plays back in 2019. Is because yeah. What are you supposed to put in the opening kickoff?
I think Harbaugh throwing the challenge flag.
Yeah, I mean that's sure that but not the flag, but the stop. You don't get the actual stop would be on. Like if we do this tomorrow, and we will because I guess we're doing this now moving forward. You're gonna have to pick 5 plays from the first quarter because the game was over at about that point. It's not true. It was over when they scored when they took
right
back
halftime.
Before the half and then scored again to start the second half. That ended the game. The game ended when the Broncos didn't see the ball and went from being down 7 to being down 21. The game was over at that point. They then had to become one-dimensional, and it's just what it is. To Tony Romo's credit, where he said, like, I know you should be taking a knee here, and you should be going for it, but like, I'd probably try to rip it down the field. I don't look. Tony Romo, you can call him uneven at this point if you want. I don't think he's been, obviously nearly as good as he was his first season, but that was prescient. He was saying the thing out loud, which is, I get what football says, what the sport has dictated you're supposed to do in these situations, but if you don't try to do something here, the game's probably over. You're probably not going to get the ball back in what's still a 2-score game. And obviously he was right. And the Ravens won going away. The real, and I said this on the postgame show, there is the performance of the defense yesterday on paper looks really good. in practicality for everyone who watched, it was an amount of good fortune then mixed with the game getting out of hand and the Broncos becoming one-dimensional, which is the last thing you want to do with a rookie quarterback. And I get that it wasn't likely that the Broncos were ever going to be able to run the ball with extraordinarily good fortune against the Ravens, but at least it has to be in the mix. And the moment they got the ball back in the second half down by 3 scores, that was now off the table. And to be fair, if we want to grade the Ravens defense on a curve, there have been times where teams have had to go one-dimensional and they've still had great success throwing the ball against the Ravens defense. This kind of shows you exactly what the limitations of the Broncos. The Broncos are a neat story, but we all kind of saw it. I know you're going to joke and say, Glenn, didn't you pick the Broncos to cover? I did. I did pick the Broncos to cover because that's how little faith I had in the Ravens defense. But we all felt the same things. The Broncos had one really quality, kind of head-scratching win over the Buccaneers in Tampa Bay. And then from that point, had taken care of business against a schedule that was not threatening. But looking at the Broncos on paper, they don't have exceptional playmakers. They have one quality, like Cortland Sutton's a quality player. He ain't Devontae Adams, but he's a quality player. And the Ravens had trouble with him yesterday. But that's it. It's smoke and mirrors. They have one really good defensive player, too. It's smoke and mirrors otherwise for the Broncos. I don't think the Broncos can stay competitive the rest of the season. I always have to remind myself that there's 7 teams in the playoffs, and if they can keep guys healthy while other teams lose players, then, we can complicate that story and figure out a way that they do. But not to do anything of significance, not to matter. Like, could they – I haven't looked at their schedule. I don't care enough about the Broncos to care. But not to do anything of relevancy.
You got the Chiefs next week in Kansas City.
It's a good spot to be when you need a win, huh?
Otherwise, you got at Chargers, at Bengals down the road, and Chiefs to end the season.
I'm going to be very surprised. I mean, even if they lose all 4 of those games, you're saying the other games are all win. Whatever. I don't care enough.
Falcons might be good now.
I don't care enough about this to care enough about this. I don't think the Broncos are very good. And given the favorable circumstances, the Ravens were able to kind of tee off. I don't think that yesterday was a story of, they figured everything out defensively. And in fact, I think in the first half you would see the exact opposite, which is there were still lots of wide open receivers all over the field. Not just Cortland Sutton, Javonte Williams left all by his lonesome multiple times. The communication stuff,
and that happened. Well, that happened every time they blitzed Roquan, which was like
it didn't really.
Yeah, blitzing Roquan.
It didn't really seem like it paid off a whole heck of a lot. That happened constantly. It was part of the story of the game. And that doesn't mean that it was a bad performance from the defense. Because, again, you can't change fact. You can't change reality. The reality is the defense played well enough yesterday to not only win, but to win going away. But as far as making it predictive, nope. Nothing about yesterday is predictive for me for this being the tide turning for the Baltimore Ravens defense. It probably fortifies the things weren't quite as bad as we felt they were after the Browns game. One, with Marlon Humphrey in particular not being on the field, Nate Wiggins as well. And two, the number of times the ball was thrown right to them and they didn't catch the ball. Because that's not, I don't think it was fair to make that predictive either. Even though it kind of has been a problem beyond just that game. I get it. it probably wasn't as bad as it was against the Browns, and it probably wasn't going to continue to be as bad as it was against the Browns. But it certainly isn't as good as on paper it seems as though it was yesterday. We're somewhere between those things. I think we're still closer to this is a pass defense with problems, but an offense that can make up for their defensive issues. And yesterday, the best defense for the Baltimore Ravens was their offense. Get the ball back, go score 2 touchdowns, the game's over. If you keep scoring, it makes life miserable. So if they screw up and they overthrow a receiver on 4th down or come up 6 inches short of picking up a first down, and you're lucky there's a camera angle right down the line, if those things occur and you go score, then you're in great shape. Your offense has to be part of your defense. And yesterday, the offense was a significant part of the defense. Played a massive role in changing the nature of the game, in changing what the Broncos had to do to have a chance to win and to get back into it. And that might end up being the story. Clearly, there's this whole thing tomorrow. Does Mike Pence have the courage to do what's right and get Max Crosby to Baltimore? There's this whole thing tomorrow that will have an impact somehow, some way. Maybe it'll be today. I don't know when we'll start seeing trade announcements again. Maybe today there'll be something that will be impactful. Maybe it will be something that happens that's not necessarily impactful. Maybe it'll be, oh God, Austin Slater. Like, that'll be the Ravens version of Austin Slater. We're like, they'll get somebody.
Yeah.
I don't know who that would be.
We don't know.
Baron Browning, the guy from the Broncos. Like, that might be what ends up happening. I don't know that they're going to get Zach Eflin. They might get Baron Browning. It might be their Austin Slater. But that could play an impact. My gut tells me that probably no matter what, the offense is going to have to be a significant part of the defense for them to be able to win a Super Bowl. And that's, it's still weird for us in Baltimore, but that's okay. It is. It's okay. That's a thing that occurs. That's teams have won Super Bowls like that. And it's probably going to happen here, at least to some extent. I think the defense can be better. I think the defense could get help this week. But I think that ultimately it's going to have to be like 60 to 70% on the offense. Now, improve that margin. It'd be great today if you make it 60% of the offense or 60% on the offense instead of 70% on the offense. And that's what an acquisition could maybe go a long way into changing. And then we'll see if some of the guys that stood out for the first time yesterday are guys that could continue to develop and be impactful, whether that's Tavius Robinson or Trenton Simpson ended up being impactful yesterday. It's something we've been waiting for a long time. We all felt really good about Trenton Simpson as the preseason ended. We're like, oh, this guy's a football player. And then only to be like, hey, what happened to Trenton Simpson? Where did he go?
Maybe he becomes a pass rusher. They trade for a linebacker.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Probably not.
Because he looks good rushing
He
the passer.
did look good getting the backfield. He did look good there.
Everything
we'll
else
see.
is still
work in
progress.
We'll see. But yeah, I'm all for it. That's the scenario for the next however many hours. It's going to be 20, 28, 20. What time is it?
If it's 10, 20.
So 30 hours, roughly 30 hours. That's what we're dealing with. That's going to be what we're talking about. That's going to be what we're staring at. I think yesterday it was fun. It was a fun football game. But I don't think yesterday was a lesson that everything has changed for the Baltimore Ravens defense. I think it was more a reminder that what happened the previous week we read too much into. It's a problem but they're not the worst unit in football. Now, how do you go about trying to make it more of a strength? And we'll see. And, I've said in the last couple of days, in the last week, that I have become fixated on Azeez Ojulari being the most practical top target. I'm not opposed to help at other positions. I'm not opposed to more depth in the secondary. Marcus Williams looked better yesterday after his one-game benching. We'll see down the road if that can continue. It was a low bar, obviously, for him to clear to look better. I just don't think it's going to be the guys that we were all hot and bothered about earlier in the year. I don't think it's going to be Max Crosby. I don't think it's going to be, I think that's impractical. So we'll see. We'll see, obviously, as the next 30 hours unfold. Get me your pats on the ass. We'll do that a little bit later on this morning. Somebody's going to win a $50 gift card to Costa Sin. 5 Ravens deserving of praise for their performance in the win yesterday. Rank them 5-1, with number 1 being your man of the match. Get him in at Glenn Clark Radio on Twitter, facebook.com/Glenn Clark Radio. You can email me, glenn@pressboxonline.com. And anyone who gets in will be registered to win that $50 gift card to the Costas Inn. I know our next guest thinks the Ravens need to be active over the course of the next 30 hours. He was in Baltimore yesterday to see them defeat soundly the Denver Broncos. He's USA Today NFL writer Chris Bumbaca, and he's with us now here on GCR. Chris, it's Glenn in Baltimore. It's great to chat with you, man. Thank you for taking the time for us.
Glenn, good morning. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Everything is good, man. I'm in this weird place where, on paper, you'd look at yesterday and you'd say, boy, the Ravens defense looked great. But I think you and I agree about this topic. I think that there's fool's gold in looking at the number or looking at how the game went. And those of us that were watching in the first half and still seeing receivers wide open, running backs wide open, and kind of the good fortune of, a couple of fourth downs that went the other way, all see the same thing, which is, no, this is probably more evidence that the Ravens still have real needs defensively, or that the pass defense in particular could be what ultimately dooms the Ravens' chances of winning a Super Bowl.
Yeah, no, I think that's totally the appropriate take here on this Monday morning. Yes, the overall number of points given up is better than it was last week against the Browns. Yes, there's some better stats out there, but at the end of the day, everything that you're saying, right before you guys called me, I was watching this video that somebody had posted onto Twitter about how Bo Nix missed 3 touchdown throws yesterday.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they're walk-ins. These are pretty easy plays to make. So I think that the Ravens were the beneficiaries of a little bit of luck yesterday, and just playing an inexperienced rookie quarterback whose physical limitations at the moment prevent him from making certain types of throws. But he still had 3.35 seconds, I believe it was, to throw the ball on his average dropback. That's just way too long, even for a guy who gets out of the pocket and makes plays with his legs. They've got to do something to be able to get after quarterbacks and not only get them off their spot, but make them create negative plays. And they were able to do that yesterday, but I don't think it's going to take place against a better quarterback with the current pass rush the Ravens are trotting out there. I know that there are guys injured on the defensive line, but I wrote yesterday that Eric DeCosta does need to go out and make some sort of move to try and shore this thing up.
So it's funny because I don't disagree with you, but I'll ask you to share your thoughts anyway. Why to you is it edge rush more so than secondary?
Well, and John Harbaugh said this yesterday, like the coverage is better, right? And like you could only cover for so long. Going back to the time to throw stat that I mentioned before, it's just going to be really tough to keep guys in front of you or prevent them from getting some separation as the plays develop. So I think that by neutralizing that aspect of it and going in and getting somebody who can be a game wrecker right now, I don't really see that person on the Ravens front seven. I know Roquan's obviously amazing. But in terms of rushing the quarterback, he doesn't provide too much. Kyle Hamilton could be considered a game record, but he's on the back end. So I think that it's just got to come up front for the Ravens, and that's where the bones are made in January and February. It's up front.
Chris Bumbaca, USA Today, is with us here on GCR. Chris, I agree with you. Like I do completely, and if there's a move that could be made for a lesser cost to also help in the secondary, I'm willing to listen. I don't know what to make of the Marcus Williams.
Sure, yeah.
The Marcus Williams situation is so bizarre. Where like he did look better yesterday after he was benched the week before, but boy, that's a really low bar. He did also kind of get mossed by Bo Nix on a touchdown in the process, which is a little bit weird. But it was a low bar. So if there is a move that could help in the secondary at a certain cost, I'm not opposed to it. And I think that to me is I keep coming back to the next 30 hours as this is the time for the Ravens to be un-Raven-like. This is the time for them to say, hey, these losses in the postseason have kind of become part of our identity now as a franchise, and we have to change this. And while I've greatly appreciated how much they value draft picks and doing the right thing and consistently being good year in and year out, I feel like if there was ever a year to say, and I get that the cap, they'd still have a cap issue and they'd have to work around that, but it just feels like this is the moment to say, no, we need to do everything we can to address these problems and line this up to finally give us a year where we have the best chance of breaking through in the postseason.
Yeah, and I think that's all very valid. I think, as far as a future mortgaging situation, we won't see that. But I do think that Eric has been aggressive before, right? Going out and getting Roquan in the middle of the season. That I think it was 2 years ago to really bolster the defense. And maybe this Ravens team, you were talking about identity before. Maybe this Ravens team is just a different identity overall. Maybe this is the offensive powerhouse with all the firepower they have in the running game and with Lamar. And maybe they are able to outscore opponents down the stretch. But I keep coming back to exactly what you were saying, the postseason, when you're playing Josh Allen, when you're playing Patrick Mahomes, maybe you have to go on the road. Who knows? It's going to take some dudes on defense to go win one-on-one matchups and then go make plays against the quarterback to be able to put you in position to win those ball games, to get over that hump, and to kind of rewrite the narrative that has overtaken this organization in the last few close of seasons. So again, I'm with you. I think that anything that they can do on the back end to shore things up, anything they can do to make an impact up front defensively, they've got to be looking into it.
So presuming that, the Raiders aren't lying and Max Crosby really isn't on the table, and presuming that there's no world in which Myles Garrett would be dealt in the division, what are the options? Because I am a pipe dreamer. I'm a guy that would say, hey, if you could throw, a multiple firsts at Max Crosby, I'd do it. I'm willing to talk about it, but if that stuff isn't real, is Azeez Ojulari enough of a difference maker that's the move that maybe is worth making for the Baltimore Ravens? Is a Jadeveon Clowney reunion really enough of a difference maker for the Baltimore Ravens?
Yeah, no, I like Azeez a lot. I think that would probably be my number one option if I was advising the Ravens. I think he's got 1 year left on his deal, maybe two.
This is his last year. He is a pending free agent.
Yeah, rookie deal. So you're not investing too much there, and he's a really good player. I think he definitely provides you something off the edge. I mean, I don't even know if this is a Darius Smith trade to Detroit that Pro Football Talk reported yesterday has gone down, but that's another guy. I highly doubt that the Browns are trading somebody in division anyway, so we'll put that one lower. I love the Jadeveon Clowney shout. He was great under Mike McDonald last year in Baltimore, but I don't see that as likely. Maybe a guy like Chase Young, now that the Saints are definitely blowing it up. Maybe a guy like Dalvin.
Oh, we lose Chris.
Aspect of that.
Sorry, we lost you there for a second, Chris. I apologize. You were talking about Jadeveon Clowney.
Oh yeah, sorry. You guys got me now?
Yeah, we got you back.
Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, Jadeveon Clowney reunion could be interesting. Another guy that is possibly available might be Chase Young. Now that the Saints are blowing it all up, and then I also saw on one of those lists about Dalvin Tomlinson, maybe some interior help, not as big of a need, and also you have to. I think that would be those were good starts. Maybe a reunion with Calais Campbell.
Yeah, it's funny because obviously the Ravens have had some injury issues at defensive tackle, right? And so I don't know if that's the area where they look to go. It just feels like, man, they need a finisher, right? Like that's the part I keep coming back to is that when everybody talks about the Odafe Owe gets pressure. They have guys, Kyle Van Noy gets pressure. It just feels like they need a finisher. They need someone who can get quarterbacks on the ground. And I get that those guys aren't, they're not grown on trees. There's a reason why those guys get paid an ungodly amount of money because everybody needs one of them. But, man, it just feels to me like they don't need one more body for the sake of one more body. They need someone who's going to make the difference and win plays.
Yeah, no, I'm totally there with you. And I think I wrote yesterday that the Ravens still have a top 5 total sack number in the league,
right?
And it's just it's about the quality of your reps, right? Right, you can tell that, and throughout the season, that quarterbacks might look a little bit too comfortable in the pocket against this team. And yeah, that difference maker probably isn't like the Max Crosby, like we were saying before, probably isn't available. So instead of a home run, maybe a double.
Chris, if they don't do something significantly at the deadline, is this team capable of winning a Super Bowl?
I'll say yes because of Lamar.
Yeah.
I'll say yes because Lamar. Maybe somebody on the defensive line steps up throughout the season. I mean, it would have to be the case, right? Like somebody would really have to emerge and come on strong. Multiple guys, honestly, right? And maybe that's the case. Maybe this staff sees something, and the front office sees metrics that they like that would force them to not make a move here or do anything drastic. But I still think that we'll see them make a couple moves here over the next 24 plus hours just to get the best combination of bodies they could get in the building. That's the Raven way, and that's how I see it going down.
I think you're right. I know they've been aggressive. Look, they made a move last week, clearly, to get Deontay Johnson. I can say that I know that they have been working on other things, and it just always comes down to, can you get those things? Look, they were trying to get Derrick Henry a year ago, and it didn't work out, right? Like, can you get it over the hump? But I know that they are working on some other things to try to make that possible. Chris, I guess before I let you go, your thoughts on what you saw from the Broncos? How legitimate are they? Like, I think the one thing that we keep coming back to is like the Ravens. I feel like we've gotten to the point where the Ravens' offense is impervious to defense. I still think the Broncos have a good defense. I don't think this was a day in which they became fraudulent. I just think that we're at the point where the Ravens' offense can do more or less whatever they want to do against any defense. I don't think that there's a defense right now that can shut down this Ravens offense.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat as you right now in that respect. I think that the Broncos have a really, really good defense. Vance Joseph is doing an awful. They flew under the radar a little bit statistically in my mind, but they're right there at the top of the league in a lot of major categories, and they're also kind of like the film darling of the analysts and pundits too. So I was really looking forward to the matchup between the Broncos defense and the Ravens offense, and the Ravens did show why. They probably have a 3-time MVP at quarterback. They probably have the offensive player of the year at least halfway through the season at running back. And right now anymore. That's a pretty tough assignment for any defense, including the Broncos. So yeah, I was super impressed. But yeah, the Broncos defense is still good in my mind. The offensive line, for all the talk we did about the Ravens defensive line, I forgot to mention that the Broncos offensive line is pretty good. So they impressed me. But there's not a lot going on in the skill positions, and I'm going to include quarterback too. I was never a Bo Nix believer in college. He has played better than it looked better than I thought it was going to, honestly, over the first half of the first half of his rookie season. But I don't know. Sean Payton, I think, is a great coach. He obviously sees something in Bo that he'll be able to develop. And that's why he's a head coach in the National Football League, and I'm talking to you on a Monday morning.
Understand? Yeah, he's gotten more out of him than I expected as well. I mean, I agree with that wholeheartedly. It's at Bumbaca on Twitter, but it's BOOM Bumbaca on Twitter is how you can follow him, and usatoday.com where you can see all of his stuff. Chris, is there anything else we can plug for you, man?
No, that's it. Check out all of our NFL content on usatoday.com. Really appreciate our conversation here, and thank you.
Thank you for taking the time for us, man. Let's talk again real soon, all right?
Sounds good. Thank you.
Chris Bumbaca with us here on GCR, and I'm in agreement with Chris that it needs to be up front. It needs to be edge rush. That needs to be the priority. It's not, why bother to do anything else? That's what I said about Deontay Johnson last week when everybody else was like, oh, he's not an edge rusher. I get it, but, it was the move that was there to be made, so make it. And clearly he wasn't impactful yesterday, but I think it was unreasonable to expect him to come in and be impactful 5 days later, particularly when you didn't need that. This is good for depth. This is good for Deontay Johnson. To me, is still a good move, and we'll see how it plays out. If you're trying to make a move for an edge rusher, but something comes up where there is a helpful corner that could be available at a minimal price, make the move. Do it. But with your sights set on, what can we do that can bring an edge rusher into the fold before 4 p.m. tomorrow? Today's show is also brought to you by countysports.zone. It's where you find everything you need to know about area high school sports. Huge upset on Friday night. St. Francis pounded IMG Academy.
Not an upset, my friend.
I mean, I don't know. One was ranked number 5. The other was ranked number 17. I mean, they pounded them 30-3. I couldn't believe what was going on. I'm like, is this for real? You know who was at the game on Friday night? Perhaps you heard of Bill Belichick.
Bill Belichick was there?
Bill Belichick was at Morgan State Friday night to watch St. Francis IMG. I think the story is
he's in the booth with you guys.
Yeah, believe it or not, didn't I don't know that he was asked either. Like somebody said that to me before the game. They're like, by the way, I think Bill Belichick's going to be here. I said, okay, sure. And then
Glenn started beating down his leg. And
yeah, exactly right. No, there was like a police presence at one point, and they were like, oh yeah, they're here to help Bill get in. And I'm like, what the hell? Yeah, I think the story is that maybe he's involved with IMG somehow, and so that's the reason why he was. I don't know.
What's he not involved with right now?
That's a great point. Great point. But yeah, a stunner, 30-3. St. Francis pounds IMG Academy at Morgan on Friday night. You can find out all about that and everything in local high school sports, whether it's football, whether it's other fall sports, or now looking ahead to basketball and winter sports season. Scores, schedules, rankings for all the private schools, for all the public schools all across the state. Countysports.zone, proudly sponsored by your local Toyota dealer, buyatoyota.com. Femi will be with us in a minute here when we come back in. It's a Monday edition of Glenn Clark Radio.
The ultimate fan experience awaits you at Sports and Social Maryland. See how we're raising the sports bar with our massive 100-foot media wall featuring 40 HD TVs and a 47-foot big screen. Bet on your favorite teams and this year's biggest events at the FanDuel Sportsbook while enjoying your favorite beers and cocktails, plus our delicious takes on bar food classics. Visit Sports and Social at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland at Arundel Mills. Must be 21. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Driving in Maryland? Did you know an Easy Pass from DriveEasyMD.com can save you time and money? Of course you did, because you are a thrifty driver. An antenna reads your Easy Pass transponder and automatically deducts the toll from your Easy Pass account. Learn more at DriveEasyMD.com.
Pressbox's Project Game Day is the place to be after every game this season. Join Glenn Clark, Rita Hubbard, Super Bowl 35 champion Femi Ayanbadejo, and our cast of regulars as they break down what happened, why it mattered, and what it means moving forward. You can watch the show at PressBoxOnline.com/GameDay or Pressbox's Facebook and YouTube pages. Project Game Day is brought to you by the Green Turtle Sportsbook in Towson and Canton, Easy Pass, and HelpMyGamblingProblem.org. So join us for Project Game Day after every game day this football season at PressBoxOnline.com/GameDay.
Treat yourself and taste the Baltimore tradition that is the legendary Costas Inn. Hey, it's Stan the Fan Charles. For over 50 years, the Costas Inn has been a Baltimore original, dishing out their amazingly scrumptious, fat, award-winning crab cakes and steamed crabs. Every season is crab season at Costas, so make your plans now by calling 410-477-1975 and reserve your taste of heaven. Sit back, crack some crabs, and watch the Ravens chase down another title on Costas' 15 TVs. On Monday nights, Costas offers their half-pound jumbo lump crab cake with 2 sides for under $30, and there are nightly specials Monday through Friday. So head on down to the Costas Inn at 4100 North Point Boulevard or visit them at CostasInn.com.
The votes were all counted, and the results are official. Royal Farms was named #1 for food in the USA Today 10 Best poll, receiving more votes than any other convenience store chain in America. The next time you want to get some good food fast, doesn't it make sense to go to Royal Farms? Voted best in the USA and home of world-famous chicken. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
Brace yourselves for an unparalleled in-person betting experience at the Green Turtle Bet Park Sportsbook and Bars in Canton and Towson. Experience the thrill of live betting with Baltimore's only state-of-the-art Vegas viewing TV experience. Choose between our on-site tellers or the convenience of our self-bet kiosks to place your bets. Gather your betting buddies and head over to the Green Turtle Bet Park Sportsbooks today. Green Turtle Bet Park Sportsbooks in Towson and Canton. The ultimate destination for game day excitement, great food, and live in-person betting. Must be 21. Please play responsibly. Gambling problem? Go to mdgamblinghelp.org.
Coming back in here with Glenn and the other guy, Garrett, whatever his name is. You know who they are.
All right, back in here on GCR as we continue along on a Monday edition of the program. Coming up later on today, the final Stan the Fan baseball show of this baseball season. I'll explain. Stan, Ross, and Luke are getting together 4:30 today. There is a small chance that show will end up being pushed back a little bit. It's a long story. Apparently, Ross is traveling, and it's a whole thing. But the plan is 4:30 today. Facebook.com/PressBoxSports. No matter what, if you miss it, YouTube.com/PressBoxOnline or PressBoxOnline.com/video. They'll put the finishing touches on baseball season. By the way, no Orioles win Gold Glove Awards last night. It's what it is.
They were releasing Gold Gloves last night as well.
By the way, what is that? What is that?
I'm sitting down and watching the Sunday night game, and I'm like,
yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, and the rest of the awards are still not for another 2 weeks. It's very weird. Not the time. I don't know what the thought process is on all of that, but really screwing that up. Figure out a much better way of going about doing that. I think maybe the idea was they were hoping for a Game 7 of the World Series and ride the momentum of a Game 7 on Saturday. Clearly, the college football schedule makers were planning for a Game 7 of the World Series because Saturday night was dreck. I was home, and I'm like, this stinks. Part of the problem, too,
thing we had Navy,
I kept waiting for the Navy game to start, and then when it finally started, there wasn't anything to see there either. Ooh, boy, that's a bummer. Anyway, the moral of the story being, Stan, Ross, and Luke will get together to talk baseball. They'll put the finishing touches on this season. Then they will come back either around the time of the winter meetings or when news warrants that they do a show. So that's the plan. It's kind of a similar story for the Bat Around. We're going to be doing off-season baseball content here at Press Box. There'll be plenty of it. But in these first couple of weeks, so there's not really anything going on unless you're trading for Jorge Soler. In these first couple of weeks, it's going to be a little bit less. So final show for Stan the Fan, former Oriole Ross Grimsley, and Luke Jackson will be today, this afternoon, and then they'll get back together when the Orioles start making moves this offseason. All right, let's talk a little bit more about what we saw yesterday. This guy was at the game having himself a time. He is our friend and Super Bowl champion, Mr. Femi Ayanbadejo, and he's back with us now here on GCR. What's going on, brother? How you doing?
Doing good, gentlemen. Good to see you. It was a good win yesterday, for sure.
It was a great win yesterday. I wanted you to tell me a little bit more because you said you hadn't been to a game since Goose passed. Like, can you tell me a little bit about that and why and what it felt like being back there yesterday?
Yeah, I mean, I just tend not to go to very many games because I actually want to watch. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then the last time I was there was a bit of PTSD isn't the right word because I don't think post-traumatic stress explains the passing of Goose. But it just reminded me of the last time we all kind of got together as a team, a lot of those guys from that 2000 team. And then I just felt like I wanted to be at home and watch the game privately on my own and just really take it in and soak it in. But I'll tell you right now, I'm glad I went yesterday. I got to see a bunch of guys from the 2012 team, guys from the 2000 team, guys in between that time period. The stadium was electric. It felt great to talk with different fans and folks and, different people I hadn't seen in a long time. So it was a great experience. I'm really happy that I went, but generally I do prefer to be kind of on the couch solo in my cave,
it's
just
so
kind of watching and observing because you know how it is when you're at a game, it's just inevitable that you're going to get handed a cocktail, a beer, a fireball shot. And, it's really hard to say no. And I do a pretty good job of saying no, but I went yesterday with the intent of enjoying the game from all perspectives, if you know what I mean, clearly.
Yeah, Femi, people don't look. It's also changed for me with the kids. Like I do like watching the games at home with my kids. It's very special. Like my son's into it. It's a very cool thing. But people ask me that all the time because I used to travel with the team, and they'd be like, "You just choose not to go to the games." I'm like, I genuinely feel like I miss things when I go to the games. I genuinely feel like there's something that I'm not seeing, and the conversation isn't as good. And back in the day when I didn't have kids, I had time that I could go rewatch the game from a Sunday night, so that when I got on the air on Monday afternoon, I would feel like I had watched the game fully. But I don't really have time to go rewatch the games anymore. So, I get it.
It's funny that you said that. I actually went home, and guess what I did?
Did you really?
I rewatched the game. I did. I did. I had to. There was so much I missed being at the stadium. I just did. I missed a lot. And Lamar was fantastic yesterday. But watching in the TV copy, it was even more impressive.
Dude,
it really was. I mean, the balls he was throwing, the windows he was putting them in, the touch, the accuracy, the patience, it was absolutely magnificent. It really was.
It keeps coming back to, with all due respect to, I know like there are Lions fans who are like, hey, Jared Goff should be in the, like I don't want to take anything away from any other person that's playing the game right now because there's plenty of good football players. But we watch this guy every week. He's different. He's not like other people. And yes, he has continued to get better, which is insane because he was insanely good very quickly at a young age in this league. But it's just he's not like these other cats. He's doing things. It's Steph Curry. It's whatever you want to call it. He's better than everybody else.
Yeah, I think it's bonkers when you think that this is his fourth perfect passer rating. He's tied the record, I believe. I believe he's tied the record with was it Peyton Manning, and maybe Griffin can pull that up. I think
Big Ben was in there, but
I think Big Ben. I think you're right.
Ben had 4. Yeah, Ben had 4. Yeah, he just got 4.
So
yes.
I maybe Drew Brees. It might have been Peyton, Drew, and Ben. I think were the other 3. Griffin, maybe you can confirm that. But think about how long those guys played. You know what I mean? Like Lamar's probably let's say halfway through his career.
No doubt.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so Lamar is still, trending upward. Like he hasn't hit his ceiling yet. It's where the physical gifts and the psychology and mental acuity all kind of meet, and we're kind of getting to peak Lamar. You know what I mean? And I think he can hang out in this space that he's in for a couple years before we start to see probably a bit of a physical deterioration at some point, but his mental ability should still keep improving. Think about how many guys were able to actually play better later. You know what I mean? And I got to play with Randall Cunningham on that 15-1 Minnesota Vikings team when people had written Randall Cunningham off. Yeah. He wasn't Philadelphia Eagles legs Randall Cunningham, but he was as cerebral, probably more cerebral and more intelligent than he ever was as the Eagles quarterback when he became the Vikings quarterback that year in 1998 when we went 15-1. I got to see that up front. And even Michael Vick, think about Michael Vick when his legs kind of weren't what they were in his younger days when he went to Philly and how he played, right? Yep. Yeah, he played really well and he played from the pocket and he still could use his legs from time to time, but I'm not trying to speed up Lamar's forward trajectory by any means. I'm just saying that I think that he can hang out in this rarefied air for a really long time because his physical gifts are so off the chart, and he didn't really even use them all yesterday. He really just basically said, I'm just going to kill you from the pocket today. Yep. You know what I mean? And that's basically what he did. He bought time. He moved around a little bit. Just the touch and the accuracy just blows me away that we still have to have these discussions. And when you look at all the QB passing records, Lamar is up there with the best of them. You know what I mean?
It's unbelievable.
So what else is there to say about him? There really isn't much else to say. He just needs to keep doing what he's doing and keep being a leader that he's being, by example and by play.
Femi is with us, courtesy of BetYard AI. He'll tell you more about that in 1 second. Femi, before we get to the defense, if I could, we talked on the show yesterday. Obviously, Deontay Johnson wasn't really part of the story, and that's to be expected. He arrived 5 days ago. And he didn't arrive to be the number one receiver in Baltimore. That's the nice part about this acquisition is that I think the Ravens are being very legitimate about it. They have their top two guys. Yes, Rashad Bateman had a couple of drops in Cleveland, but they know who the top two guys are. He's here to provide depth. He's here to add to it, and he has a skill set they'll try to take advantage of. What is the correct timing? Is it enough time that by this Thursday night, he could be more impactful, or is that maybe still a couple of weeks away? What does that look like for an offensive player arriving on the fly in the middle of a season?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's probably going to be after the mini bye is my guess.
Okay.
Because it'll give him time to really immerse in the system. But they could come up with a Deontay package. You know what I mean?
Sure.
They could have a little package for him.
Sure.
7-8 plays, and he could be the number one, or quick screen.
Yep.
Send him on a go route, give him a 9, let him run a post corner, double move on somebody.
Yeah, stuff that's the same no matter what offense you're in.
Exactly. Yeah, you can go end around with him, right? There's probably a little different things. Just get the ball in his hand and see what he can do because he's electric, So that's what I see happening probably on Thursday. But I think coming out of the Thursday game, who do the Ravens play after the Bengals?
So funny.
Is it the Steelers?
I'm so zeroed in on the Bengals game. I hadn't even looked. It
is
the
the
Steelers.
Steelers.
It's the Steelers.
Okay, cool. All right. So guess what? Now, I wouldn't be surprised if they made a little package.
That would make a lot of sense
for that game.
That would make an awful lot of sense. So, that would be the case.
Yeah.
All right, you and I were kind of in agreement. It was a very solid performance from the Ravens defense yesterday, but I don't know that we read too much into it. The game circumstances allowed for them to tee off more. It got to 3 possessions early in the second half, and Bo Nix missed some throws that were there. There were some receivers that were still wide open, and there were other throws to be made. He missed a couple of touchdown passes that could have been. I'm not trying to, I'm not trying to rain on anybody's parade. I just don't think that we suddenly say that everything about the defense was fixed because they only allowed 10 points yesterday.
No, I think it's a step in the right direction, but I think we agreed yesterday that the pass rush still is not good enough, right?
Yep.
Especially when it matters. It's not good enough still. But I give the guys a lot of credit. I think that they got into the punch the clock mode and grinded all week on the jugs, got, paid dividends on that interception right away. You know what I mean? I give them a lot of credit for how they handled 4th down yesterday because those were big swing plays. Those are basically turnovers, right?
Yep.
And so, yeah, Bo is going to be a problem, I think, as he gets, his feet wet and gets a little bit more confident and comfortable playing at the NFL level. Because I saw some flashes of his athleticism yesterday. I think we all talked about it. He really can use his feet.
Yep.
He's a lot faster than people realize. He has escapability for sure. He throws a nice football, especially when his feet are set. when his feet are moving around, that's when he gets a little swirly. But who doesn't? I mean, Lamar is one of very few guys that can be off platform with his feet and still find a way to put the ball exactly where it needs to be. Jared Goff.
Tell me if this is crazy.
Pat Mahomes.
It's not just because of the Oregon thing. He reminded me of Justin Herbert yesterday. Like, you see some gifts there. I think Herbert has a better arm than Bo Nix does, but he has gifts to play the position and to play with that athleticism that were Herbert-like to me.
Yeah, I would say that Bo is a little bit better of an athlete than Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert's a good athlete, but I think Bo's a better athlete. But I'll say that Justin's probably a bit better of a pocket passer and probably does have a bigger arm.
Yeah.
Like his natural touch and throw, I think he's more accurate than Bo. So you're giving up something to get something. But I don't think the comp is a bad comp, though.
So the next 30 hours, the Ravens have to try to add to what they have up front. We talked about it a little bit yesterday. I think it's unfair to suggest it's edge rusher or bust, or, I think that the Ravens still have the ability to compete and win, even if they don't add to it. And you hope that yesterday was a sign of maybe Tavius Robinson, taking a step forward to being part of this solution. But boy, what adding an impactful edge rusher would do to make you feel like this team has a serious chance to win a Super Bowl, it would go a very long way.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think if you can get a pass rusher, you go get him. But I mean, the bottom line is that I think they have the guys and the staff in that building to get it done. But would it make it a little easier, have a little more depth, to have a bit more, one more impact player coming off the edge? It definitely would. We see it with our eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Third down and third and long is probably going to continue to be a bugaboo unless guys step up or you try to scheme it up. You know what I mean? And you can only scheme up things so many times. So eventually you just got to beat the guy in front of you. You know what I mean? And so it'd be great to get another pass rush specialist that can beat, tackles one-on-one. I don't know about an interior guy. I don't know who the interior guy would be.
People have brought up bringing Calais back. That has come up a little bit.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind that. I mean, yeah, that's there's no downside there. I mean, I still think Jadeveon is a guy that I would want back. I mean, I don't know what the chances are of getting two guys, but you start to run into some roster issues probably at that point. But I think Jadeveon would be a great pickup.
He hasn't been obviously as impactful in Carolina this year, but as a lot of people pointed out, that's all they have in Carolina this year.
Yeah, you can basically isolate him and just say we're going to stop this guy, right?
Right, more or less.
So,
yeah. So yeah, look, I'm not opposed. I think I've told you my guy is Azeez Ojulari, right? Like, I'm all in on that. I just watching him last Monday against the Steelers, like, he really continues to jump off the page for me. But I'm not, whatever it is, just somebody that can be more helpful and more impactful in getting after quarterbacks and not giving these guys as much time to throw as they've had. That to me is the biggest way to make a difference. All right, how was the week for BetYard AI?
Yeah, we're hovering right above 50% this week. We need to get this win tonight. You know what I mean? I think we'll be mid 50s if we have. I think we have Tampa tonight.
Okay.
I got to go back and look.
Trying to think.
So yeah, we're not losing you money. Bottom line is that if you stay the course, you're going to win. And so, I think one of the things that I love about the platform is that when I'm at home, I'm totally dialed in on everything that's happening. But being at the game yesterday, I was a little bit detached from our predictions and what we were doing. But overall, yeah, we're doing good. Everything is good. Go to betyardai.com. We're actually messing around a little bit with our service tier and our pricing. We're kind of getting at that point in the season. I think we want to get a lot more people on the platform. So we're still giving out the free week, and I think we're going to bring some pricing down too, by the way, to see if more people are willing to take a bet with us.
Okay.
And obviously we don't take bets, but we provide the predictions. But yeah, go to betyardai.com, check out what we're doing. We should have some NBA stuff coming up pretty soon as well too. Probably sometime around Thanksgiving.
You piqued Griffin's interest. He's prepared to light money on fire with the NBA, and now he won't have to because he'll have better information from BetYard AI. That's the way that it goes.
5 players have had 3+ games of a perfect passer rating.
5 players.
Yes.
And who's the list?
It's do you want to guess, or you just want to give it to you?
Well, so I thought it was so I had Peyton. Okay, maybe Peyton was. I had Peyton.
Peyton's
I had Drew Brees.
Okay.
Drew Brees.
Not Drew Brees.
Okay, Ben.
Ben
Ben had 4.
He had
Ben
4.
and Lamar have 4.
Right.
Peyton has 3. Brady has 3, and Kurt Warner has 3
It's a pretty good list.
Okay.
That's all right.
That's
All
a
right, cool.
pretty good list, bro.
Yeah.
Like, just basically the greatest quarterbacks of an era. That's all. That is
Yeah.
a pretty good list. All right, brother. We will talk to you on Thursday night for the
Yes,
next
sir.
Project Game Day. Love you. Appreciate you, man. Thanks for
Right.
hopping on this morning.
Love you, brother. Have a good one, man.
See you, bud. That's Femi Ayanbadejo, Super Bowl 35 champion, with us, as always, here on Mondays on GCR. Yeah, that's a decent group, huh? That's
I think so. Mine only went back to 1950. I think Otto Graham also had 3. Also had 3 such games
How about that?
prior to 1950.
How about that? He's also pretty good.
Yeah.
Still pretty good company. Like, it's not like you're gonna pull up. If you would have said like John Kitno was on that list, then we would have. Like, well, I'm not sure how valuable this list is now, but that list
His
is.
son's playing football now. You know?
I did not know that. Where's
at
John?
At
Kitno?
UAB. He's with Trent Dilfer.
They finally won a game.
Yeah,
over
and
the
he
weekend.
threw like 6 touchdowns or something.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Jalen
Trying to think of John Kitna and Trent Dilfer would have been teammates somewhere. Maybe they're both in Seattle at the same time.
Yeah.
I know they both played for the Seahawks. I don't know if they would have been there at the same time or not, but I did not know that his son was the quarterback.
Yeah,
at
I didn't know
UAB.
either
How about
until
that?
Saturday. And I
How
was like,
about
what's
that? That's neat.
I saw Jay Kitno. I was like, what?
Right. How would you even know? John Kitna was definitely before you.
I mean, he was. I mean, I remember him playing for the Lions. Like,
really?
They were terrible.
You
right?
remember
was he
that?
only owned 16 Lions?
I don't know. I don't know if he was on
What was his?
I don't
era?
remember
I'm
much
pretty
about.
Sure he was.
John Kitna's 52, so he's been out of the league for a while.
Yeah, he was on the Lions from 06 to 08.
Okay.
And then he was backing up Romo.
How old were you in 08?
I was 8.
Yeah. Not sure.
Never gonna forget though. You know.
Oh yeah.
16 team.
You have all those memories. All right, very good. Let's do.
And I was like, what does this happen every year?
Do you want to? I guess we'll split it up. We'll do picks recap here, and then we do Pats later. Or do you want to? Is that the way to do this? Because I don't think we're gonna have enough time. Steve Wyche joins us, and we want to get a break in before 11:15 if possible. So
then yes.
Let's go ahead and do picks recap and go over the weekend that was in the NFL and college.
If you
football.
want to, yeah, we can.
That said, now wait a second. I was 3-5 last night, and I got the Sunday night game. How did I?
It was okay. So John accidentally had the Houston game wrong, so that is why you actually had a loss in there. Because I was going through, I was like, something's not adding up here.
Yeah, because I wasn't feeling so bad about myself until I see this now.
Yeah,
and
he
now,
had Houston as winning the Thursday night game, which was incorrect.
No, that would be quite incorrect if that were the case. God damn it. I was feeling okay. I didn't hate myself.
You did have the low mark, yeah. Okay. Well, you and
I don't know that I trust this.
Kyle.
I'm just being honest with you. I don't know that I trust.
Go ahead and count it real quick.
I don't know that I trust.
You're gonna have 3 wins.
Yeah, but everybody else's scores. The fact that the last 2 games aren't in red yet. Like, I'm not comfortable with any of
I
this.
just didn't finish putting them up. I have to manually make them red.
I'm not comfortable with any of this.
We don't have the.
Jeremy wins as a lone wolf on Rice. Yuck. Just bad, man. And look, the footing was a problem. The turf at Rice was bad, and then all of the delays. The game was supposed to start at 4. Then it started briefly at like 6:30.
Yeah.
They had like a minute worth of gameplay, and then it was just a nightmare of a day. If there's good news, successful surgery for our friend Pete Medhurst on Friday, and he's been improving. His wife Brenda has been updating it over the weekend. We love that part, but don't love the result, and that does take Navy out of the equation for getting into the college football playoff, which always was going to be difficult, but just a bummer. Just a big bummer. They got to regroup. They got to bounce back, and the Tulane game is still very big for them for any hopes of playing. Like, the one loss in the AAC doesn't doom you, but it can't come apart from that. If you want to win the league, all those things, got to get the ship righted at this point, and that was just bad. They just got obliterated. No thanks. I don't know. Ken and I were still very tuned in to the end of the Oregon-Michigan game because we were both I don't know. I guess there was just no other game to watch, so we both were still watching at the end when it's a 14-point game, and Michigan has decided they're not going to call their timeouts anymore.
I love Dan Lanning.
And they're just like, look, dude, we're good. Just game's over. And, yeah, Dan Lanning said, yeah, we want the cover. We need that cover.
Him and James Franklin, unless
doing
James
Franklin's
playing
right.
Unless he's playing Ohio State.
Correct.
But.
Doing it for the alums.
Yeah.
Dan Lanning goes ahead and punches in one more touchdown. Michigan didn't bother to. In another world, Michigan starts taking their timeout so that they can maybe have a shot at a backdoor cover. Apparently, Sharon Moore not as concerned about the alums as Dan Lanning is. And so what was a 14-point game becomes a 21-point game. Bad news for myself, for Jeremy, and for Kyle Ottenheimer, who are all on Michigan. Bad news for anybody that was on Penn State, James Revere, John Proctor, Kyle Ottenheimer, Paul Valley. They're perpetually the nail. That's just the way that it goes.
Or run a different play at the 1 yard line,
I guess, but they also got the luck of Will Howard fumbling the ball.
That's true. Yeah, I mean,
like that was all about.
They both
right.
did turn it over in the end zone.
It was all about right. Just the nature of it. All of that was about right. Ohio State covers, wins a game that they needed to win. The Thursday night thing, out on having any trust and faith in the Texans anymore. That's shot.
They're still sick. They're Sunday Night Football this week. So.
Oh, good. Need they? Who they playing on Sunday?
They're playing a winning team. I forget who it is.
Yeah, I remember seeing them promote the game last night, but I've already forgotten who it was.
Is it the Bill? No.
I don't know. You tell me. You look it up.
We'll get there.
Jeremy, John and Little Rock, Paul
Lions.
Valley, and
Okay.
the Lions. Okay. Yeah. Paul Valley and Ryan Chell were all on the Jets, so they get that point. I don't know what to make of Arizona. I have no idea. This
Good
is
football team,
this
maybe.
is a maybe. Although again, this is exactly the point. It's stunning 3 straight good wins for the Cardinals as they hammered the Bears. Maybe we bought into the Bears a little bit too much a couple of weeks ago. Points there for Andrew Stetka, Griffin, Joe Serpico, John and Little Rock, and KZ. The Rams, they made it interesting.
They did.
Interesting as hell, but ultimately do cover in overtime.
I got very worried because for whatever reason I thought the spread was 3.5 in favor of the Rams, and I was like, oh god.
Once they went to overtime.
Yeah, so once the touchdown did score, I was like, okay,
right.
But we would have covered anyway.
Yeah, covered anyway. So I got that one, which was fun. There's only a few of those this week apparently. Griffin,
every week.
Thank you. Not John Little Rock. John Proctor, KZ, Kyle, Paul, and Ryan all on the Rams. Detroit obliterates Green Bay. The weather was awful, but that's where Green Bay's supposed to have the advantage over Detroit.
Well, Jared Goff's an outdoor quarterback. We knew this.
It's not really about Jared Goff. I think Jared Goff got you a cool 9 fantasy points, so thanks for that. But he doesn't throw incomplete passes. When he does throw, he completes a pass. It's just the way that it works. Continues to have more touchdowns than incompletions, which is wild. It's just wild. But Detroit obliterating Green Bay on the road yesterday. On Detroit, Ryan Chell, Kyle Ottenheimer, KZ, John Proctor, and James Revere. Minnesota does cover. That one was looking hairy last night. That one, you didn't know what the exact interest was. And then were the Colts going to do the bit where they just say, the hell with it. We're probably not going to win anyway, so let's go sell out to get the touchdown to make it look closer than it was. Nope, they did the right thing. They kicked the field goal, even though their kicker stinks. They ran out for a 53-yard field goal. I'm like, have you been watching the game? This is the time where you're going to run your kicker out. I get it, though. It's more like if he doesn't make this kick.
Then we know it's
it's going to be
over.
We just don't have a choice. We have to score twice. We got to have as much time as left as we possibly can. We got to do it. If he misses, so be it. But they do. Minnesota wins by 7.
8? Was it 7 or 8? I don't know.
8. Yes, it was 8. Sorry, it was 8. And so they do cover. Myself, Andrew Stetka, James Revere, as well as John and Little Rock, John Proctor, KZ, and Kyle all get that point. And idiots picking against the Ravens. Myself, Andrew Stetka, as well as John and Little Rock and Kyle Ottenheimer. So with that in mind, 3-6, which was improvement from where I was last week at 1-8, but still bad. 37-50 for the year now. 2 games behind.
Are you even trying? Do you know what the goal?
I assure you,
game is.
This is not what I want. Not what I want.
Starting to separate.
It's not good. Not good. 2 games behind. KZ went 7-2. He was the high water mark, so he closes the gap on Ryan Chell at the top of the table. He's now 4 games back. It's me 2 games behind Jeremy and Paul to try to avoid being at the bottom of the table, which ain't looking great. But still a long way to go If I can ever figure out how to pick football games. If I can ever figure that out.
We still got about 10 weeks or so left.
A long way to go. From the top of the table a year ago to the bottom of the table this year. It's go figure. Go figure. That's where we're at.
Oh, everyone's paid off, too, by the way.
Oh, how about
Incredible,
that?
Yeah.
Would you believe it?
When
we threaten Ryan Shell that he can't win if he doesn't pay, all of a sudden, I guess I'll pay. How about that? All right, that's picks recap for this week. Not that I have.
You didn't mention who's in third.
Oh, you're in third.
Yeah.
You're in third.
Oh.
You're 6 games back, though.
Ryan better keep it.
Still
he's got to make sure he keeps pace.
There you go. Well, yes, because KZ closed in on him. He's got to worry about KZ. No, you actually lost ground to Ryan this week.
Yeah, but I'm still there.
Yeah, that's fine.
He
but
can
you lost
still see me in the rearview. He still sees me in the rearview mirror.
Ground on
He
Ryan
can still see me.
week.
He can still see me.
Sure. Picks recap brought to you by Live Casino and Hotel. What's going on at Live Casino?
Hopefully we're over there yesterday because every time that Baltimore or Washington scores touchdowns during home games, and Baltimore scored quite a few yesterday, you get $7 in free slot play. Live Rewards members with their Live Rewards card inserted correctly into the slot machine, any slot machine on the floor, and are actively playing get their prize of $7 in free slot play home games during Baltimore and Washington this season. So head over to Arundel Mills. Must be 21 to play. Please play responsibly. For help, visit mdgamblinghelp.org or call 1-800-GAMBLER.
When we come back in, Steve Wyche, NFL Network. He was at the game yesterday. We'll get his thoughts on what he saw from the Ravens and what they need to do before tomorrow afternoon. It's Glenn Clark Radio.
Treat yourself and taste the Baltimore tradition that is the legendary Costas Inn. Hey, it's Stan the Fan Charles. For over 50 years, the Costas Inn has been a Baltimore original, dishing out their amazingly scrumptious, fat, award-winning crab cakes and steamed crabs. Every season is crab season at Costas, so make your plans now by calling 410-477-1975 and reserve your taste of heaven. Sit back, crack some crabs, and watch the Ravens chase down another title on Costas' 15 TVs. On Monday nights, Costas offers their half-pound jumbo lump crab cake with 2 sides for under $30, and there are nightly specials Monday through Friday. So head on down to the Costas Inn at 4100 North Point Boulevard or visit them at costasinn.com.
Make the most out of every day in your Toyota RAV4. Available in hybrid or gas-only models. A RAV4 can get you where you want to go in style. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new RAV4s from your local Toyota dealer today.
The drug scene in Maryland is changing. Fentanyl and xylazine are being added to street drugs, and you may not even know it. Xylazine is not even intended for humans, and fentanyl is an opioid 50 times stronger than heroin, and contributed to over 80% of overdose deaths in our state. Anyone who uses drugs, even occasionally, is at risk of overdose. To learn more, visit stopoverdose.maryland.gov or call or text 988.
The votes were all counted, and the results are official. Royal Farms was named #1 for food in the USA Today 10 Best poll, receiving more votes than any other convenience store chain in America. The next time you want to get some good food fast, doesn't it make sense to go to Royal Farms? Voted best in the USA and home of world-famous chicken. Real fresh, real fast, Royal Farms.
The latest edition of Press Box is available now. On the cover, Brooks Dubose profiles Maryland basketball forwards Derek Queen and Julian Reese as the Baltimore-built duo reunites in College Park with hopes of bringing the Terps back to prominence. Also inside, meet college basketball players from all of the area's D1 programs. Press Box is available for free at over 500 locations throughout the region, including 60 Royal Farm stores, where you can read the entire issue online at PressBoxOnline.com, where you can also find great betting advice and the best daily coverage of the Orioles, Ravens, and Terps.
Need a trophy or award that's as unique as the achievement? Look no further than Crown Trophy. With locations in Owings Mills and Gaithersburg, they specialize in custom trophies, plaques, and medals for any occasion. From sports and academic awards to employee recognition and corporate gifts, visit crowntrophy.com today and let them help you create a lasting memory for your school, team, or business. Crown Trophy is a proud supporter of the Maryland Public Secondary Schools Athletic Association. crowntrophy.com.
One of the things that's definitely wrong with this country is that this dude still has a job somehow, some way. Glenn Clark.
All right, back in here on GCR as continue along on a Monday edition of the program. If you missed it, we have pushed back the next Arthur Millette show. It was at one point scheduled for tonight, but with the Ravens playing on Thursday night this week, it's just a bit much to try to pull that off. So the next show will be 1 week from tomorrow night, Tuesday, November 12th. And we're going to do back-to-back shows on the 12th and the 19th. Next Tuesday night, we will be at Mother's North Grill in Timonium. Back at Mother's, it's been one of our favorite places to be for the Arthur Millette Show and the other shows that we've done over the years. So come join us next Tuesday night for the Arthur Millette Show. You can find out more at PressBoxOnline.com/Millette. The Arthur Millette Show is brought to you by Easy Pass and HelpMyGamblingProblem.org. Join us next Tuesday, 1 week from tomorrow, November 12th, for the Arthur Millette Show at Mother's North Grill in Timonium. Good to see Arthur's role expanding, as he's been back now for a couple of weeks. Our next guest was at the game yesterday, checking out the Baltimore Ravens and their dominant performance over the Denver Broncos. He's one of our favorites. NFL Network, he is our friend, Mr. Steve Wyche, and he's back with us now here on GCR. Steve, it's Glenn in Baltimore. It's great to chat with you, man. Thank you so much for taking the time for joining us as well. I really appreciate you doing this.
Oh, no, good morning. Thanks for having me.
Hey, Steve, I am at a place where I know there's an amount of hubris, right? Because it doesn't guarantee they can win every game. But simply put, what the Ravens are capable of doing offensively, I don't think it matters what the defense is on the other side. I don't think that that's a statement that the Broncos' defense is fraudulent. I think it's somewhat the nature of the NFL and really the nature of how truly unique this is to have both Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry in the same backfield. I just don't believe that there is a defense that exists that can control a game against the current Baltimore Ravens offense.
It's funny because, we sit there and say that because they've got so many weapons. There'll be some teams that it's like boxing where styles make fights, and they, like a team like the Chiefs, might have the personnel to, I won't say stop them, but slow them down, make them get into a slugfest type of game. There's a couple teams like that, and the Ravens have to really be clicking like they were yesterday. But I got to tell you, man, watching Zay Flowers and watching how the field is opened up now for the tight ends and do things like this, and the way Todd Monken is dialing up plays, I'm kind of with you, man. It's like, okay, on any given Sunday, there might be a team that kind of catches them. But, man, they have more weapons than anybody else. And then adding Deontay Johnson will be steadily incorporated only gives them, even more.
I feel like it's one of those things where, like, there has to be conspiracy from the – like, they have to be, willing to drop the football themselves. They have to be – like, if someone's going to truly have success against them, it feels like the Ravens have to be in on it. And that what Bill Belichick said against, like, the Ravens' only opponent, the only real threat is the Ravens, like, it just sort of feels like that's the case the more you watch them.
Well, again, the interesting thing in Conference League for a long time is how they have to play, if they've got a lead like yesterday or if they've got a rally. But they can do that. Like, some teams can play from in front, right? And then, get a lead and then let their pass rushers get after people, much like the Colts used to do. These guys can play any type of football. That's why they're dangerous. And so much of it goes back to Derrick Henry. When you've got a guy, because in the first half yesterday, man, the Broncos weren't really letting him get off. But then, once Todd Monken and the offense saw what the Broncos are doing and the way that they were run blitzing and things like that, they started dumping the ball to the middle of the field, hitting Justice Hill, on that wheel route down there that opened things up right before the half. So, again, I think it's just a collaboration of just really good coaching, an abundance of talent, and guys executing. They didn't have a bunch of penalties and things like that, getting them negative plays yesterday as well. So yesterday was really just a good collaboration of everything working well against the defense that's pretty darn good.
He is Steve Wyche, NFL Network. He's with us here on GCR. Steve, that said, on paper, the numbers would say the Ravens' defense was dominant against the Broncos yesterday. They allowed 10 points, and they've righted the ship. Everything's good. You were there. We were all watching. I saw a defense that still left a lot of receivers kind of wide open. Bo Nix had lots of time to make plays. He missed some open – he missed a couple should-be touchdowns during the course of the day yesterday. And then they got one-dimensional because the Ravens' offense kept scoring, and the Ravens were able to tee off a little bit in the second half. I think they did their job. I think it was a reminder that what happened against the Browns probably wasn't predictive of what the Ravens was going to be because it involved them dropping so many should-be interceptions. But I didn't come away from it suddenly saying, oh, the defense is fixed, everything's good here, no need to do anything more ahead of the trade deadline.
You and me both. I mean, Bo Nix looked really good in that first half. He moved the ball. And, the sequence that's probably not getting talked about enough, I don't know, I'm not there, but, let's not forget, right when they got down about the 2-minute warning in the second quarter, Bo Nix threw a touchdown pass that would have made it 17-14. It was called back because of a penalty. They end up kicking a field goal, and because of brilliant use of timeouts by John Harbaugh, they left about 1:15 on the clock for Lamar to hit that ball to Justice Hill, and then for Zay Flowers to work his magic to make it 24-10 going into halftime. Right. Other than that, this could have been a very nip and tuck type game because, again, you saw Bo Nix had time to maneuver in the pocket. He was really good scrambling. As you mentioned, he missed it. There were a couple misses. But yeah, again, it wasn't. If they were facing a team that had more threats on the outside, in the run game, I think it could have been more problematic. But again, the Ravens were really good against the run. They didn't allow too many explosive plays. So I think that's one, speaking to Kyle Van Noy, he says, we know what's wrong. We're steadily building, and we want to be peaking at the right time. This was a step in that direction. I don't know if they're ever going to necessarily be the dominant defense we've known to be the standard there. But as long as they can be adequate with that offense, that should be good enough.
Steve, let me give twofold. What's practical for the Ravens coming up at the deadline, right? Like what could be had? Do you think? I think a lot of us have centered around edge rush, just seeing how much time quarterbacks have had. Do you think that should be their biggest area? And what would be practical for them, whether it's there or maybe secondary help?
Well, secondary help is hard to come by. It's to me the talent. It's not like the talent in that secondary is weak. If they get something for depth, maybe in the secondary. And you talk about edge rush, and again, I don't know the details of what they're trying to do schematically. Sometimes edge rush is helped by good interior play.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe they feel like, hey, maybe if we get a defensive tackle who can push the pocket, that's going to open some things up for guys on the outside. We know Matabike, how good he is, and losing Pierce is tough. But, I just don't know exactly what they want to do schematically. So it's easy to sit here and say, hey, we got to get an edge rusher. Those guys don't grow on trees. And we know Zadarius Smith is going to be available for the Browns, and we know who ain't trading him to the Ravens.
Yep. Yep.
So I don't know. It's easier said than done. I would see them maybe adding to their interior depth as opposed to find an edge rusher who probably wouldn't necessarily be a difference maker.
I'm in love with Azeez Ojulari, Steve. Like I have an obsession with it at the moment. Where I'm like, isn't that the guy that makes sense? Isn't that the potential difference maker? And especially if there's these rumors about the Lions and Zadarius Smith, maybe they go off the table. Like isn't that the guy that you're looking for? And I'm not trying to pretend that he's Max Crosby because Lord knows he's not. But like I just feel like that's the guy that could end up being the right fit for the rest of this season, and then see where you are. And if you can't sign him, so be it. Take the compensatory pick for him. I have this like obsession at the moment with Azeez Ojulari as being the right fit.
Well, I mean, you have to see if it's a scheme fit, right? Is he a defense? Is he a DN, or is he an outside backer who works? Like that's the thing we don't take into account, which you're asking guys to do. Is he a guy who can really be a brick house and set the edge? I mean, that's a huge thing in what the Ravens like to do. I mean, it's got to be is he a situational guy? Is he someone, however you want to use him? Is it worth it? And that's, I'm sure those are some of the questions that scouting staff, Eric DeCosta and Ozzie and those guys are working through when they're looking at a player like that. But Ojulari, I mean, just athletically and some of the things he could do, hey, man, you can set him up to do certain things. He doesn't have to necessarily be the guy every down. So there's different ways you can work it.
If the Ravens don't make a significant addition at the deadline tomorrow defensively, is their defense good enough to be able to win the Super Bowl this year, Steve?
It's got to get better. I mean, and again, that may not happen necessarily with personnel. It may happen with just guys getting more, involved in the scheme. Communications is something that continues to come up when you hear players talk about. We're getting better at communicating. We have to get better at communicating. I thought yesterday, again, the two players who I thought were just absolutely outstanding really showed up, and that was Kyle Hamilton, and we know Roquan Smith. We've seen sometimes those guys have really been put in positions where they're asked to do a lot. Maybe they get beat or something like that in coverage. It really seemed to kind of settle in some yesterday. So again, if they're moving in the right direction, of course it can be good. Again, I don't think it's necessarily at some spots a matter of talent or personnel. It's just a matter of everybody working together on the front end and the back end, and that's to me when I watch them, is something that has not been consistent all year. They get that consistency going. I think they could be good enough.
And just being around, like, nobody's surprised by the fact that Deontay Johnson wasn't a significant part of the story yesterday. He showed up 5 days ago, right? Like, and he showed up really as a depth guy. Like, they didn't make any bones about the fact that we know who the top guys are. But did you get any sense being around the team, talking to them about, like, when and what that might look like for Deontay Johnson in the coming weeks?
Yeah, I mean, he's just going to have to take time to incorporate himself into the scheme. Look, they know who he is. They know what he is. They played against him enough. And he's somebody, if he gets singled up, man, he's really good on the sideline. He's really good on the intermediate route. He's got good size to him. They'll find a way. Again, we've seen how they've been able to incorporate different guys into the scheme. So he might be one of these guys where it might take a couple weeks, and all of a sudden you get into December, and you've got a threat who can do things against certain personnel. And then if he gets some confidence going, and gets a little trust going with Lamar, because remember, he only practiced 1 day with Lamar last week.
Right.
Then you've got something, because he is a talented player who can run after the catch. So I think it'll probably take a little bit of time, but who knows? He's another chip, man. The good teams, we are seeing it this year when it comes to acquiring talent. The good teams are adding players,
no doubt,
that they know can make a play for him.
And the crazy part to me is, like, everybody brings up some of his history, whether it was the drops when he was in Pittsburgh or some of the stuff, and they're like, the cost was so insanely low that, like, if somehow any of that stuff were to creep up, and I know that the argument would be you get him in a better spot, better quarterback, that you probably get a better version of Deontay Johnson. But even if you don't, so what? Like, if you get to week 16 and you say this just isn't working, this wasn't worth it, then you gave up, 10 spots in the draft in the late rounds this year, right? Like, it's just such a no risk move, even if you don't think it's a high reward, that it just seemed like an utter no-brainer for the Ravens to make.
Yeah, look, it's like a couple years ago. The Chiefs have done it the past couple of years, and they went out and they got Kadarius Toney, right? He's no longer with the team, but he gave them an immediate bounce, right? When they make the Super Bowl run, they go out and they get Juju Smith-Schuster last year. Go out and get him again this year. It's that type of, and you saying it, it's that type of comparison. Where there will be points in games where this guy is really going to help you.
Yep.
There'll be points where maybe you don't need him to help you, or if things don't work out, hey, it is what it is.
No doubt about it. Steve, what all can we plug for you, my friend?
Oh no, we're good. I'll be back in studio for the post game of the Monday Nighter tonight, and we'll see what goes on from there at the trade deadline.
No doubt, it's going to be a busy day tomorrow. Of course, the insiders as well. At Wyche89 on Twitter, as always, is how you follow him. Steve Wyche, you're the best, man. Truly appreciate you. Hope you enjoyed your weekend here in Baltimore. Look forward to seeing you again real soon, my friend.
Always. Thanks for having me on. Anytime.
Thanks, brother. Steve Wyche with us here on GCR after his trip in. We're all doing the same thing. That by the way, like, you don't come off extraordinarily excited after talking to Steve Wyche, right? Like, you come off more like, oh, saying it just maybe like a defensive tackle. And, like, not to say that they couldn't. That's the difficult part, is nobody saying they couldn't use a defensive tackle of some sort, particularly given Michael Pierce injury. Brent Urban wasn't out there yesterday. Like, the depth at defensive tackle has become an issue, a position where the Ravens historically have always been very strong. So it's not saying they couldn't use a defensive tackle. It's just that, A, we all know defensive tackle ain't sexy. And B, you really do feel like they could use more significant pieces. Now, what Steve Wyche didn't say was, hey, I talked to Eric DaCosta. He said, it's not happening at edge rush. We're just going to get a tackle. That's not what he said. But you also know Steve Wyche is a plugged-in guy. And so, you know, my heart, I want to say my heart sank because I'm not. This ain't going to impact my life. It's just not. It'd be nice. I'd appreciate it. But it's not going to change my reality, whatever the Ravens do or do not do at the deadline tomorrow. But the way that he said it definitely made it come off like, maybe set your hopes a little bit lower. Maybe drop slightly what it is that you're aiming for. I hope he's wrong. I hope Azeez Ojulari is on the table, but even I think it was Diana Rossini who tweeted about Azeez Ojulari over the weekend, and she listed a group of teams, and the Ravens were not one of the teams that she had listed on there. I think the Bengals were on there. I think the Cardinals were on the list. You get these football weekends, and football people tweet so much about
Falcons, Cardinals, Bengals, right?
Yeah, Falcons, Cardinals, Bengals. Yes, those are the three that she threw out there in her tweet. Which again doesn't mean, and historically, very rarely have was anybody tweeting about Deontay Johnson and the Ravens last weekend? No, not at all. Historically, the Ravens aren't usually reported to be in on a player that they end up trading for at the deadline. It usually, the way they do their business, it usually ends up being, well, none of us were talking about that guy. How about it? But I don't know if that means maybe they're not in on a certain player. Just noted that they were not one of the teams that Diana Rossini was tweeting about when she was tweeting about Azeez Ojulari. And who her source, I don't know. I don't know if she has a Giants source. I don't know if she was getting that from another GM. That's usually, I've said this before, if you want to know where some of this information comes from, it usually doesn't come directly from the actual team that's involved. It normally comes from, hey, I'm not going to tell you about my team, but I'll tell you about what everybody's talking about from another team. Like, here's what we've heard about what the Falcons are looking to do, for example. That's normally the way this works. Usually. Not always, but usually the way this stuff goes. Is that what someone is reporting didn't come to them. We don't have to take a break here. We can, yeah. What someone is reporting is unlikely to have come from the direct source. Instead, it's more likely to come from, hey, we're working on trades too. We're not going to tell you about what we're doing, but we'll tell you what it is that we're hearing about other teams. And we'll tell you that when we were talking to the Lions about this player, they were saying, well, we're working on this other thing. And that's how that information tends to come out, which doesn't mean that's the case specifically. I don't know. Just telling you that generically, that's usually how this stuff works. We continue along here on a Monday edition of the program. If you haven't picked up the print issue of Pressbox yet, don't know what you're waiting for. It's available for free at your neighborhood Royal Farms, any of those hundreds of locations around town where you find Pressbox. You can read it all at PressBoxOnline.com. The Baltimore-built duo of Derek Queen and Juju Reese on the cover, reuniting in College Park. Great story from Brooks DuBose. A lot of college hoops content as the season gets underway tonight.
25 minutes.
Who's playing at noon?
Charleston and SIU.
SIU Edwardsville or
no,
SIU
no,
legit
right,
SIU?
yeah.
Well,
Southern
that changes
Illinois.
everything. Let's get it up on the, or is it a Flow Sports? If it's hosted by Charleston, it's probably a Flow Sports.
Or it's in Sioux Falls. It's at the Pentagon.
The Sanford Pentagon.
Yeah.
It's a mecca of basketball. Why is that the game? That's very weird. All right, fine. We can watch
Might
it.
be on YouTube. I don't know.
We'll watch it. Anyway, this man, I'll be dishing out college basketball betting advice each evening. You hear him on the Big Bad Morning Show over on 105.7 The Fan. He's our buddy Jeremy Conn, and he's with us now here on GCR. What's going on, buddy? How are you?
What's up, man? And one of my top plays is the Salukis today. So,
How about that?
Starting at noon.
How about that?
I was leaning towards Charleston.
Oh, boy, this could be a fight. I think you should go ahead and bet against Jeremy. I think that's what you should do. And then I think you should talk S to him if you hit.
Football picks, yeah.
If you hit, you should be like, maybe I'll take over Concrete Live. What you should really do, Jeremy really likes it. When the couple of times that he might be wrong about something is if you talk S about it. Jeremy really likes that. He thinks that's high-level content.
Keep reminding me. That's what I need. I just need people to keep telling me how wrong I was on something. So that helps.
What's going on, buddy? How you doing?
I'm good, man. It's been an interesting week. Like now we get college basketball today, and it's a couple of weird things with tonight. So you have the Chiefs and the Bucks. College basketball starts, and you got games that already started, but I guess the biggest one would be at noon. And then I think 4 o'clock, and then it just keeps going on. The NBA tonight, for some reason, has staggered every game 15 minutes apart.
Yeah, that's
so
a really weird.
And everyone plays.
Yeah. And it's not because they're all on TV or anything like that, and they're trying to do something.
No.
They're just staggering every game 15 minutes apart. I don't understand what the deal is with that. Are they doing a free preview?
How much I like it with daily fantasy, but we'll find out tonight. But
are they doing
there's a lot of.
Are they doing like a free preview of the league pass or something? Is that the reason why they're doing it?
They do that for the first week or two.
Okay, I don't know. That would make some sense. Otherwise, I saw that and I was like, "What the hell is this?" That's very weird.
Yeah.
All right.
Just weird stuff.
I want to talk. Obviously, I'm going to talk about the Ravens with you in the deadline, the whole thing. I want to have a quick adult conversation about this topic because it's obviously what's going on in the world. You have in recent years been more vocal about dealing with political stuff on social media. I am very much the type that just says, I have no interest. I don't want to do it. I have enough things that people fight about. It's difficult enough for me to get my kids. The reason I've only got half a voice is because I spent 2 days with my kids and I have to yell just to get them to do anything. When I say, hey, it's time to put your shoes on so we can go, they're not going to do it until I yell at them. I have enough stress in my life that it's not worth it for me. How do you handle when you're around people, if people want to talk, like what? Because I'm in the point of my life where I have no interest. I don't want to talk about it. Whatever you do your thing. I'm going to do my thing. I don't care what you care about.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, I think you have a better chance of changing someone's religion than their political party
right
now. I mean, there's no conversation to be had. And the thing is, and I this is what I don't get and I don't understand, is that people are looking at it and everyone's picking sides and throwing mud at the other side when we're all the ones that are just losing out on this because they can't come to any sort of agreement in the House and Congress because, nope, we got to block them from doing what they want because they're going to block us. And we're the ones that miss out.
Right.
I'm not a fan of either one of these candidates, and I've said it numerous times that my whole family are Trumpers. I hate Trump. I think he's like one of the worst human beings we've ever had. And it's amazing that people are holding him up to the same standard as Jesus. It's one of those weird things, but you can't get away from it. And no matter what, my best friend's a Trumper, but I didn't stop being his friend because of who he likes. It's just, we've gotten to the point where, and they've said it before, religion and politics, you don't talk it. I think it's safer to talk religion than politics.
I think you might be right about that at this point, man. I think you might be right. I it's tough because I don't even have I don't even get joy from any of it's exhausting, dude. It's just so exhausting that even the memes and even I just want it to be
You know what bothers
over.
me the most is there's just so much fake information out there. People putting together fake pictures and, oh, look what this person did.
Right.
You've seen the one of Kamala at the Diddy party when that's actually not who that is. It's who was the talk show host, Montel Williams. And people are putting her. It's crazy to me that all this stuff gets out. There was a guy that was caught today, and both sides are doing it. So don't get it twisted that I'm going, Republicans do this and conservatives. No, because I don't even consider myself liberal. I'll vote for whoever I think is the best candidate. And right now, I don't like either one of them, but I know the one I really don't like. So, and I was told, multiple times, we don't talk about these things because you can alienate half your audience where they hate you. And it's like I'm to a point now where that doesn't even bother me anymore.
Right.
Like, go ahead and do your hate thing. I mean, I try to stay out of politics as much as we can until it crosses over. And, last week it did cross over. And then the big thing, too, and not to get off on some tangent with this, is like, I hate when people say shut up and dribble or shut up and act, shut up and play football because what do you do for a living?
Well, yeah.
Do you shut up and plumb?
Right,
Like,
correct. No. And it goes, this is eternal for me. Like, I'm going to do me. I'll do me.
Yeah.
You don't want to follow, you don't follow. It's all good. If I'm not for you, I'll live. It'll be okay. I'm clearly not for a lot of people. That decision has been made, right? Like, life, I'll be all right. If I'm not for you, cool. But it is the lowest common denominator is the stick to sports, God damn. But I'm just.
Well, and it's only when you don't agree with me,
right,
correct. So again, people were bringing up Nick Bosa after the game, putting on his Trumper hat or MAGA hat and walking over behind them. And,
right. Yeah. Nobody's.
He should be allowed to do that if he wants. He should be allowed to say, "Hey, this is who I'm voting for." And I got news for a lot of the liberals out there. A lot of your favorite athletes are going to be conservative, whether you like it or not.
That's the way it goes. That's the way
it's life, man. We all have different viewpoints. It's just, can we talk about it and can we be civil without, being a-holes?
Just exhaustive. All right, speaking of exhausting things going into tomorrow, the trade deadline is tomorrow. What do you think the Ravens do, if anything?
I mean, look, I feel like they need to get somebody along that defensive line, or at least as a pass rusher. I think that's the bigger problem. They're not getting there. They're blitzing more now, which is going to expose the secondary. It gives up big plays. The only good news that you have looking at it is that this offense, this is one of the more incredible offenses I've seen for what they can do. Denver came in with a business model like, we're going to stop the run, and you guys did for the first half. And then the quarterback had a perfect passer rating on you. So pick your poison what you want to do. Honestly, like, I know people weren't happy about the Deontay Johnson trade, but that's going to make them even better down the line, and it gives you depth in case there's an injury. But they got to figure out something on the other side of the ball. And I've been to this point, and I know we've talked about this. Like, I know Eric DeCosta doesn't like giving up these big picks to go make a move. I know the Ravens only have $3.5 million under the cap. There's got to be one of those 12 teams that's sitting down there at the bottom that has no business being in it, that has somebody they'd be willing to move for a decent draft pick, so you can try to give yourself a better, I don't want to say window, but a better chance this year. Because right now, I think the Ravens have an argument made that they're the best team in football, even with the Chiefs being undefeated. Mahomes has more interceptions than touchdowns, but like, something has to happen. And I'm wondering how weird it gets over the next 2 days, because again, as I pointed out, there's too many teams at this point of the season, like barely the midway point, too many teams that are already out of contention.
I'm doing the thing that I do before the draft every year where I fall in love with, this makes sense, this is a player that I like, and it makes – and I have done the thing with Azeez Ojulari in the last week. Look, man, I would desperately love for Max Crosby to be available, but every ounce says it's not happening. I would desperately love for there to be a world where the Cowboys wake up today and say, Micah Parsons isn't going to play for us, but he'd play for somebody else. I'll move. I don't think it's happening. The one that feels practical to me, that feels like it's the most helpful, and I've spent more time watching him. Paid a lot of attention to him last Monday night, is Ojulari. Like, I convinced myself that Azeez Ojulari is exactly the right fit. It costs you – the conversation starts at a third-round pick because that's what they can get in a compensatory formula. Maybe it's a third and a pick swap, something like that. But it feels like it is the move that you make that's practical. I find myself saying I'm almost like Azeez Ojulari or bust at this point.
That's the comedian that was in Observe and Report.
And he was Parks and Recreation. He was great.
Yeah.
Love Azeez Ojulari.
Why would I blow up a Chick-fil-A? It's delicious. Anyway, no, but like, to your point, and again, it's okay to fall in love with certain players and hope that it works out. We just know they need something, because this isn't it right now. And it's coming off of a day where the defense gave up, barely anything except yards. But if you had a decent quarterback out there, they would have given up some more big plays, because there were people wide open all over the field. And Bo Nix, he's just not that guy yet. I don't know if he ever will be. If you ask me, I'd say no. But, when you look at it, he missed a couple of plays out there that could have made that game way more interesting. I can't tell you how mad I was when they got the turnover to start the game, and then you get sacked out of field goal range. Right. And I'm like, man, you had a chance to just put this thing to bed early, get in their heads, and then, of course, they ended up doing that anyway. But But I do think they need to do something, man. And if you have the mortgage part of your future, so be it.
Yeah, that's 100% where I am, and I think the flip side is, Jeremy, I don't think that if they don't do it, it means there's no way they can win the Super Bowl. I just think it makes it so much more difficult, and essentially leaves your margin for error. Like what we saw last week, they should have won the game against the Browns last week. They dropped 4 interceptions. Like they dropped them, not plays that could have been made. They dropped them, and that happens sometimes. A year ago, they were obviously better than the Pittsburgh Steelers, but they went to Pittsburgh, and everyone dropped the ball that day. Bizarre things happen. To me, it's about trying to improve your margin for error, that on the days where goofy things do happen. They dropped 4 interceptions last week and still got the ball back with a chance to win the game at the end, right? Like that's the crazy part about that day. But it's about trying to improve your margin for error so that on days when things might go wrong, or, if you have a day where you forget that you can run the ball too, whatever it is, you have more fallback. It's like if we don't win North Carolina, then we better win, Nevada. The conversation we're hearing around the election right now. It's about having more plan Bs for when things go wrong. I don't think it's a case of, well, if they don't go out and get an edge rusher in the next 24 hours, they're screwed. There's no way they can win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, and it's funny not to go back to the election, but I wish they'd do away with the damn electoral college.
Well,
they're in the same 6 states going back and forth, and it really makes me feel like my vote matters.
Yeah.
Like if I was a conservative in Maryland, it's like, well, why would I go out there and vote? Does it really matter?
Yep.
But that being, and there's a lot of areas like that. That being said, it's I don't know, it's just so interesting to me to look at this football season and how everything's unfolded. It's been just an incredibly ugly year around the league, and to your point about the turnovers and everything, like I know you can make the case and flip this the other way, so I try to be a realist and not just a total optimist. But week 1, it's a toe, and there were some questionable penalties in that game too. I'm not going to blame the refs, but Isaiah Likely's toe is out. Week 2, you blow a double-digit lead to an inferior opponent. Week 3, you blow a double-digit lead to an inferior opponent, but hold on and win. And then you stack all those W's, and then just as you pointed out, I mean, you could easily have one loss right now and be chasing the Chiefs. Now you need them to have a couple of hiccups if you want to get a bye, but you got to be more worried about winning your division because the Steelers are playing well, and they're coming off a bye week now.
That's the reality. All right, what else interested you this weekend? What else? I feel like we're in this weird position right now where there are things like the Cardinals are really interesting, but we don't actually believe they can win a Super Bowl. Like I don't know what else. It seems like this long procession towards, can someone finally beat the Chiefs in the AFC in the playoffs, and is anybody as good as the Lions are in the NFC? And right now the answer to that one looks like no.
Yeah, I was saying to the guys today, like, if you ask me who I think could get to and win the Super Bowl, there are 3 teams in the AFC. And for me, right now, as it stands, it's Kansas City, Baltimore, and Buffalo. I think Buffalo does not want to play Baltimore with that small front they have because they just get eaten alive. They'd have a better shot against Kansas City. And one of the guys was like, well, what about Houston? I was like, have you watched their offensive line? They're going to get that poor kid killed. He has been getting annihilated by every team. He even made a throw getting yanked down to the ground at one point that was so amazing, I think way back in week 1 against the Colts. So, and then you mentioned the NFC side. Like, it's the Lions, and then who else? Like, who else is going to show up to say, I mean, were we totally dismissive because the Vikings went on a 2-game losing streak, or is it just that we don't buy into Sam Darnold because, I mean, he threw 3 interceptions last night, so you can or had 3 turnovers. You can look at these things, but each week I think it's just going to matter who gets hot at the right time. I really don't believe in this Chiefs team, but you can't count them out ever. So those are the intriguing things. My favorite thing from yesterday, though, was Tua's prop. Did you see this?
No.
So Tua's passing prop was 250-some yards, whatever. Whatever it was, 255, and he had already passed it. Or, no, I'm sorry, it was 243, and he had 255 yards. So he'd already won that bet, right?
This is hilarious.
Well, no, not until he threw the pass to Jalen Waddle, and he ran back 24 yards. And now that's a losing bet. And one of the craziest things I think I've ever seen from a gambling standpoint. And the other thing I found out this weekend, the Dallas Cowboys had a fake punt to start off the game. Did you know you can't have pass interference on a fake punt or a fake field goal?
Wait, really?
Yeah, that's what they said during the broadcast.
I did not know that.
So you can just grab – I mean, it goes back to, like, knowing all these little intricacies of the rules and whether or not that gets changed at some point. like the kickoff when the guy steps out of bounds and then touches the ball, it goes to the 40.
You know what I found
so
out?
You kick it near the sideline.
You know, I found something out when I was working a high school game on Friday night. I did not know that in high school football, you're not allowed to hurdle a defender. There's a rule in high school football that you are not allowed to hurdle over the body of a defender. So the coolest play I've ever seen. This is wild, right? Maybe not Saquon Barkley reverse hurtling over someone.
I was going to say, what if you jump over him backwards?
Jesus
he didn't know he was hurtling anyone, so like he can't flag
Jesus,
that.
that's insanity. But like a high school kid, and the flag comes out. I'm like, what the hell? What's the flag for? Because I did not know there's a rule in high school football that you are not allowed to hurdle someone. And I thought, that is wild, Jack.
There must be some, I don't know, but study or something. Maybe,
Well,
maybe they had a rash of injuries.
If a defender stands up, like in the process, it could be a legitimate like injury issue. And I understand that like not everyone in high school, high school football is a weird animal because like the overwhelming majority of these players are not like it's. Maybe there should be different rules for certain programs than there are for other programs, but like the kids at Pikesville High School are not going to be football players. And so, with all due respect, it's not just Pikesville. There's every other. That's the one I'm just putting out there.
Football.
I'm not saying that. All right,
Dave
shut up.
Fiedler made it to the NFL.
That's
Oh,
true.
sorry, never mind.
That's all right. All right.
I didn't know where you're going with it.
All right. No,
Yeah,
but you get the point. Like, if somebody stands up as you're trying to hurdle them, like it could create a serious injury issue.
I get it, but it's football. Like you can get tackled at any moment and have an injury. You know, that's why I think that rule's kind of silly because now you're penalizing a guy for being too athletic. You know, like it's weird.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. All right, what else is going on in your world? Everything good?
Yeah, just waiting for obviously college basketball today, so I'm going to be probably sitting in my bed watching that most of the day.
I can't pretend I know this is maybe when my kids are grown too. I can't pretend like I have a ton of bandwidth at the beginning of the season for college basketball.
Yeah.
Like I'll I know there's a couple of really good games on late tonight. Like I think
is it 11:30?
I'm not staying up to 11:30 for that.
Yeah,
you got
it. Yeah, you've got a show to do tomorrow morning. But
Baylor
like,
Gonzaga at 11:30.
Yeah, like I know there's a couple of
Towson plays at 10.
I just every now and then there'll be like a big game that pops up early in the season that I'll look. It's just very difficult for me with college football and the NFL going on to have a ton of bandwidth.
For me, there's a couple things there, Glenn, because like I know Texas and Ohio State play today. At the beginning of the year, you get some of these small tournaments like the Coaches versus Cancer Classic, where we get really good teams playing each other. I think there's a huge game on Saturday. Now I'm blanking on it, but I looked at all this stuff today. I mean, you're 100% right because I don't think anybody outside of just someone that's a huge college basketball fan is diving in today unless you can bet on the games, and then it obviously makes them a little bit more interesting. My whole plan today is to finish watching. I'm halfway through the Penguin, finish watching that. I'm going on Pharrell's show, and the rest of the day it's college basketball for me, checking out some of these teams. But you're right. I mean, there's today there's so many huge favorites because like somebody's playing Incarnate Word and somebody's playing the Texas Community College or something. It's just there's like all these gigantic spreads. I'll be watching Purdue because I want to see what they look like without Zach Edey. I know they got another big guy, and my favorite player in college basketball is Braden Smith, their point guard. So, interesting that we get all that today, and I'm kind of excited. And again, it leads me into the NBA tonight.
I have this. I have to get on. I decided to start watching Industry because that was the Sunday night show on HBO for a little while before Penguin started. Mm-hmm. It stinks. I have no idea what this show is for. And yet, I've told you this before. Once I start watching it, I can't stop. I don't like it.
That's on my list, too. That's
it does nothing for me. Like, nothing. And yet, I can't stop myself from watching it when I know I should be watching Penguin instead.
So for someone that's watched as much TV as I have, I've missed like 5 of the biggest series, and I have to make time and watch them. And the problem that I have is, I'm usually getting in my spaceship when I go home, and watching Succession isn't the easiest thing when you're high as a kite.
Right.
And I don't know if you've missed any of it. Like, I never saw Better Call Saul, never saw Mad Men, never saw Succession.
I have wanted to do Mad Men is one of the shows that, like, I never got to watch straight through because it was like if I saw an episode, I saw it. If I didn't, I didn't, right? Like, I do need to do that with Mad Men. I have done it. I'm good on Succession. I'm good on Better Call Saul. There was something
they're both shows that I know I would like, and it's like, why are you waiting on it?
You'd love them. But yeah, Succession is difficult because you do have to pay attention. It's not like it's probably not for getting high and sitting down and watching. I gotta get on Penguin. That one's on my list.
It's so good, man. And I don't want anybody to ruin it for you because, again, the next episode is supposed to be like, oh, my God, did that just happen? Yeah.
All right. Very good. At ConcreteLocks.com with 2 N's. Big Bad Morning Show, 105.7 The Fan. At JCon Sports. Love you, buddy. Appreciate you. We'll talk to you next Monday.
All right, guys. I'll see you.
See you, pal. Jeremy Conn with us here on GCR. Appreciate him taking the time for us as always. All right. When we come back in, we will go over Pats on the Ass. You can still get yours in with a chance to win a $50 gift card to the Costas Inn just for participating. Who deserves the most praise? We'll talk about it next. It's Glenn Clark Radio. Brace yourselves for an unparalleled in-person betting experience at the Green Turtle Bet Park Sportsbook and Bars in Canton and Towson. Experience the thrill of live betting with Baltimore's only state-of-the-art Vegas viewing TV experience. Choose between our on-site tellers or the convenience of our self-bet kiosks to place your bets. Gather your betting buddies and head over to the Green Turtle Bet Park Sportsbooks today. Green Turtle Bet Park Sportsbooks in Towson and Canton. The ultimate destination for game day excitement, great food, and live in-person betting. Must be 21. Please play responsibly. Gambling problem? Go to mdgamblinghelp.org.
Hey Baltimore, it's number 10, Arthur Millette, and I'm hoping you'll slot us in all season long for the Arthur Millette Show. We'll be traveling around the region all season, giving you the chance to get to know me and my teammates. There will be some football talk and a lot more. You can watch this show live on Pressbox's Facebook and YouTube pages and listen every Friday night on 105.7 The Fan. Find out more at PressBoxOnline.com/Millette. The Arthur Millette Show, the only show in town that's a work of art.
The next Arthur Millette Show is Tuesday, November 12th at Mother's North Grill in Timonium. It's brought to you by 1-800-GAMBLER and Easy Pass.
Whether your focus is luxury and comfort, convenience and technologically advanced connectivity, or sporty performance and aggressive styling, we've got the perfect Highlander for you. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Highlanders from your local Toyota dealer today.
The ultimate fan experience awaits you at Sports and Social Maryland. See how we're raising the sports bar with our massive 100-foot media wall featuring 40 HD TVs and a 47-foot big screen. Bet on your favorite teams and this year's biggest events at the FanDuel Sportsbook while enjoying your favorite beers and cocktails, plus our delicious takes on bar food classics. Visit Sports and Social at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland at Arundel Mills. Must be 21. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
The drug scene in Maryland is changing. Fentanyl and xylazine are being added to street drugs, and you may not even know it. Xylazine is not even intended for humans, and fentanyl is an opioid 50 times stronger than heroin and contributed to over 80% of overdose deaths in our state. Anyone who uses drugs, even occasionally, is at risk of overdose. To learn more, visit stopoverdose.maryland.gov or call or text 988.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
Driving in Maryland? Did you know an Easy Pass from DriveEasyMD.com can save you time and money? Of course you did, because you are a thrifty driver. An antenna reads your Easy Pass transponder and automatically deducts the toll from your Easy Pass account. There, you just saved money with Easy Pass, all without slowing or receiving a notice in the mail. Well done, thrifty driver, well done. Get your Easy Pass at DriveEasyMD.com.
Contrary to what some people believe, I actually like this guy when he sleeps. Glenn Clark, talking sports.
All right, winding down. What's going on over there? What's happening?
I can't get out of this screen.
Well, you can turn the TV off and then turn it back on.
Yeah, that's going to be a whole thing, and we're trying to do a show.
I feel like you're going to be all right. I feel like it's not that big of a deal.
Well, we're going to miss the first 15 minutes.
Oh, no. Oh, God, what are we going to do? If we miss the first 15 minutes of SIU Charleston, it's basically like we missed the entire college basketball.
I have Charleston opening tip. I need...
Jesus Christ, you need help. Hi, it is the Glenn Clark Radio Monday edition of the program, winding down, but we can't wind down without giving out some pats on the ass. You know how this works. Every time the Ravens win, you pick 5 Ravens. 2 must be offensive players, 2 must be defensive players. The 5th can be a special teams player. It could be a coach. It could be another offensive player, another defensive player, whatever you want it to be. You take those 5 guys once you've chosen them, and then you rank them from 5 to 1, with number 1 being your man of the match. It's as simple as that. Get yours in at Glenn Clark Radio on Twitter, and you will be registered to win a $50 gift card to the Costas Inn. It couldn't be easier. I don't know why you struggle with it. I don't know why people don't get more involved. It's a conversation for another day. But at Glenn Clark Radio on Twitter with your responses for pats on the ass, and you'll be registered to win. All right, let's get into it. Number 5. Perhaps somebody will think it's blasphemous that I left Derrick Henry off the list again, but I did because, again, one, like saying, well, Derrick Henry had 100 yards rushing, that was kind of forced, and the broadcast kind of called that out. There was no need for Derrick Henry to still be in the game at that point, and in a way, it's almost a bit reckless that Derrick Henry was still in the game at that point. I kind of don't love that. This goes back to, like, you'll never get me to defend. Vic Fangio is an a-hole, but you'll never get me to defend the Ravens putting those guys back out on the field and giving it a rat's ass about this type of stuff. And doing the bit, you say, well, the stuff that matters to us might not be the stuff that matters to you. You know what matters to me? Health. One thing, health. Have your players available. And if a player gets hurt going after the difference between 96 yards rushing and 103 yards rushing in a game, I can't justify that, man. I can't do it. And I get it. Like, we hold up 100-yard games as this bastion. And so for Derrick Henry, it might matter to him to say, you know, at the end of my career, if I had all these 95-yard games turn into 100-yard games, I might have how many more? I don't know. But it doesn't matter to me that Derrick Henry got to 100 yards because it felt kind of fake that he got to 100 yards. And again, the story of the Ravens pulling away wasn't really about Derrick Henry. Trenton Simpson's my number 5. It was really encouraging to see Trenton Simpson be impactful. Will it continue? No idea. But what it could mean for this team, if it's a sign of them figuring something out, could be really significant. Trenton Simpson's my number 5.
I did not go with Trenton Simpson as my number 5. I considered Roquan, you know, obviously the stop on that, getting the stop on that 4th down earlier in the game, after they reviewed it and overturned it, was big. But I ended up just going back to Kyle Hamilton. Like, he still is just
higher on my list.
So good. Just, you know, pass breakups in the back. Like, whenever he's in the backfield, it's not going good for the other team. He gets tackled for losses, pass breakups. He's everywhere. It's impossible for teams to avoid him. They try to avoid him, and they still can't do it. So Kyle Hamilton was my number 5 on the list today.
My number 4 is Tavius Robinson. The 2 sacks jump off the page, and they should. I don't think he had a brilliant game. I think he made 2 really impactful plays, and right now the Ravens need that. So Tavius Robinson is my number 4.
My number 4, I went with Derrick Henry at number 4, just because he's a battering ram. I guess you're saying, you know, he wasn't that big of a story late in the game because they were up by so much.
Well, he wasn't, he wasn't the biggest part of the story in how they pulled away.
Right.
Like, there were 2 guys. Look, this was a week in which the top 2 guys could not have been easier. It's really, to me, a question of who's 3, 4, and 5. But the story of the game was those 2 guys. Derrick Henry was, it's a pedestrian 100-yard game, which sounds disrespectful.
But he was still, nobody wants to tackle him in the 3rd or 4th quarter.
This is not about
crazy.
Big picture, the Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry's great. It just, to me, wasn't the story of the game.
I thought he had a tremendous game and was, you know, since the offense was so good going against, you know, all this talk of, you know, the Broncos being such a good defense and, you know, Derrick Henry showing up and, you know, maybe it was an artificial-ish 100 yard. He was still at 80 yards, like, early in the 3rd quarter. So, you know, Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry is my number 4.
Number 3 is where I have Kyle Hamilton, who was the best defensive player on the field yesterday, bar none.
Number 3, Tavius Robinson, you know, just because there weren't a whole lot of other performances outside of Hamilton. You know, maybe Roquan and Trenton Simpson was all right for most of the day. But yeah, Tavius Robinson was my number 3. You know, get the 2 sacks was really big. He was in the backfield a good bit. I know he got credited with 3 or 4 quarterback hits. So Tavius Robinson was my number 3.
Zay Flowers is number 2.
I went with Lamar as my number 2. He
You're
was surgical.
Drunk.
He
You're
was
drunk.
He was
Doing
fantastic.
too much.
And but
You're doing too much.
they were you could flip a coin, honestly.
No, you can't flip a coin.
Looking at the freeze frame of Zay, with 5 guys around him, with that last play before halftime, and then him scoring on that was.
It was a nice play, 100%.
It's crazy. It's crazy to have a number 1 receiver.
It's
it
fun.
Really is.
I don't disagree with that.
Is.
It's fun, and we number 1 is a funny word, right? Like he's still not a prototype, but he's a hell of a football player. There's no question about that.
All right, who are the receivers better than Zay Flowers right now
in the NFL?
Yeah, like is he top 10?
Probably not, but he's getting there. I mean, like right now, it's still Justin Jefferson. Obviously, is number 1. Jamar Chase, AJ Brown. Devontae Adams is an interesting one. Coming into the season, definitively Devontae Adams, and I'd still have him higher on the list. But I get why that becomes interesting. Mike Evans is still absolutely higher. Tyreek Hill. How do we not even mention Tyreek Hill yet? Deebo Samuel, Cooper Kupp. Puka's in the conversation, but that's where the conversation starts. Somebody would bring up, Nico Collins, definitely the guy that you saw at the beginning of the season was 1,000% that guy. And then Stephon Diggs has been that guy for some time, so that's a tricky. I would still probably put them above. And then CeeDee Lamb.
Probably.
The production is obvious.
Putting Neighbors up there already.
Not. I would still have Amon-Ra St. Brown ahead of him at this point. I think it's that next group that we're talking about, which you can include Neighbors.
Puka, Neighbors.
You could include Puka. You'd include Marvin Harrison. You'd include, DJ Moore, DK Metcalf, T. Higgins, Brandon Ayuk. That's where you start to say Zay Flowers gets into the conversation there.
So it looks like
Devontae
11,
Smith,
probably 11
Jalen
to 12,
Waddle.
11 to 12 definitively ahead of Zay.
Definitively ahead, yes. Yeah. And then it's where he is in that next
Top
group.
20.
He's somewhere between there and, in 15 to 20 in that range is probably where. Most of those guys are guys I would say, again, what are we talking? The fit with Lamar Jackson is so good that, that's a value to Zay that, maybe wouldn't be the case if DK Metcalf was your guy, right? But if I was starting a team, which guy would I rather have? I would probably rather have DK Metcalf over Zay Flowers just because of the prototype thing, right? I would rather have that catch radius and not knowing who my quarterback's going to be, that's the player that I would have. So how do you measure those two things, right? His connection with Lamar is more valuable than if you have a prototype. I don't know where to measure those things. But he's not top 10, but you could start making an argument for him somewhere in probably around the 15 range. You could probably start making the argument. Does that make him that? Zay Flowers is great, but my God, you're doing too much over there.
He was good. They were both fantastic.
Yes.
They were both.
One was Lamar
perfect.
Jackson. One's Lamar Jackson, and also threw the ball to other guys that aren't named Zay Flowers and was perfect in that scenario.
And the biggest plays were all to Zay Flowers.
No, the biggest play was to Zay Flowers.
The biggest. Maybe you throw that Justice Hill
the Justice Hill one absolutely is in there.
Other than
that, early on, a couple of really important throws to Rashad Bateman to keep things moving.
Bateman did. He took out 3 guys on that play as well.
Yeah, a huge block downfield. A huge, massive block downfield. This is not me trying to take anything away from Zay Flowers, who was awesome. It's that putting Zay Flowers over Lamar Jackson is doing too much. It's trying to be clever and do something different.
They were both
yes,
1A and 1B.
And if there was any argument against Lamar Jackson, if there was any knock at all on the day, then you could make an argument for Zay Flowers because there's literally no knock at all. Nothing that Lamar Jackson did wrong at all, and he did more. You can't make the argument. There's no compelling
Anytime Mark
there.
Andrews touchdown would have been nice. But
okay.
Just maybe throw it to him then.
Dumb. And to think, I praised you for 5 plays last week. I was willing to give you credit for things. Things have been going so well until you just wanted to try to do the most here.
They
Just
were.
wanted to
I wasn't
try
trying
to
to
be the
stir the pot or anything. They were both really good.
Yes, and one of them is
unfortunately,
Lamar.
one of them had to be two.
Yes, correct. And the one that didn't do quite as much is the one that's number 2.
Lamar's been number 1, like 6 times. This
is
season
you.
already,
You're
so.
trying to do too much. You're trying to do too much.
Zay,
Get me yours.
Mom said it's my turn.
Yeah, that's what it was. Get me yours. At Glenn Clark Radio. We'll, for whatever reason, put ours up still, despite that. At GlennClarkRadio.com for you to
Good
check
list.
it out there. Yeah, it's no. You can check it out there at GlennClarkRadio.com. All right. Tidbit is brought to you by Live Casino and Hotel. What's going on at Live Casino?
Hopefully we were over there when Lamar was throwing all those touchdowns, when Derrick Henry was scoring all those touchdowns, because every time that Baltimore or Washington scores touchdowns during home games this season, you get $7 in free slot play. That's right. Live Rewards members who have their Live Rewards card inserted into the slot machine, any slot machine on the floor, and are actively playing, they get their prize as soon as Baltimore or Washington scores those touchdowns during home games. Adderall and Mills must be 21 to play. Please play responsibly. For help, visit mdgamblinghelp.org or call 1-800-GAMBLER.
All right, what you got?
What do I got? Where do we want to start? Let's go with Gold Glove. Let's see. So 3 players. One won last night.
Sure.
Gold Gloves. You don't want to do the Gold Glove
I don't
one?
care about the Gold Glove.
Gold Gloves are a big deal.
Too.
That's why they released them at 8:45 on Sunday night.
Right. Obviously, there's
after
such
the
a
MLB
big deal.
season. 3 players have won a Gold Glove in the each of their first 3 MLB seasons. One of them won it last night. All have happened on this side of 2000 as well.
I did. I actually saw.
Oh, okay.
Well, I saw it was tweeted about. Now I'm trying to remember who it was.
Sarah Langs tweeted it.
God, that's probably who I saw tweet it. I do follow Sarah Langs, and now I just can't remember. Each of their first 3 seasons won a Gold Glove.
And the other 2 actually won it their first 10 years.
The other 2 won it their first 10 years. Okay. Is it Stephen Kwan?
Stephen Kwan,
Okay.
yes, awarded last night. So first 3 seasons for Stephen Kwan.
Now you're asking me to name
joins
any
the list of
Ozzie Smith.
not Ozzy. On the other side of 2000.
Oh, right, the other side of 2000. Piss. It can't be Greg Maddux either. Other side of 2000. Other side of 2000.
Uh-oh, Jeremy.
Oh, yeah, College Charleston off to a hot start. Griffin told you. Who's won? And I'm just trying to think of who's won a lot of Gold Gloves on the other side of Adrian Beltre.
Not Adrian Beltre. Third baseman.
Third baseman. Third baseman.
An outfielder.
An outfielder. Third base. Arenado?
Oh, yes, Nolan Arenado.
Okay.
First 10 seasons.
I did not know he did that, though. Man, I knew he was a good defensive third baseman. I didn't know that. Outfield. Well, that's broad. That could be anybody, because who knows who the good defensive outfilders are?
I want to say mostly at right field, I think.
Mostly in right. The noted place where everybody's
when you think of
exceptional.
he's a good outfielder.
Well, I was going to say Andrew Jones, but he would be before 2000 anyway.
Did he play most of his?
Right fielder. Ichiro.
Ichiro is the correct answer.
Yep.
There you go.
All right.
Arenado, Ichiro, and Stephen Kwan.
Okay.
3 greatest defensive players
Sure.
of on this half of 2000, we'll say.
I guess.
Your argument for Sam Darnold MVP, I don't know. Optastats.
What does Optastats have to say?
He is the only NFL quarterback in the Super Bowl era to complete over 80% of his passes, as well as throw 3 touchdowns, while also having 3 turnovers and taking 3 sacks in the same game. So Sam Darnold, pretty impressive there against all odds.
Not really sure that's
completing most of his passes.
Not really sure that's a specific.
As long as they weren't completed the other team, throwing 3 touchdowns, we'll turn it over 3 times.
We'll go with that.
Sunday, so yesterday, marked the 48th time that the Pistons and the Lions played a road game on the same day. 48 times that both the Pistons and the Lions were on the road on the same day. First time that they both won by double digits on the road. First time that's ever happened.
I wouldn't have been surprised if it was the first time they both won. Like, I can't believe you had to give a qualifier to it. I'm not sure if you remember the Lions, but they're not good.
So this was a funny one.
They're good now. Sorry.
Not to continue to bury on the Saints, I guess, and the Carr family, but Josh Dubow from AP had this one. So quarterback with the most losses through their first 4 seasons. The record is 43, David Carr. For most losses through 5 seasons, also David Carr. 6 seasons, David Carr. Most losses through 7 seasons,
Derek Carr.
Derek Carr.
It's pretty funny.
Through 8 seasons, Derek Carr. 9 seasons, Derek Carr. 10 seasons, Derek Carr has the most losses.
Poor
and
guy.
Right now, through 11 seasons, he is tied with, at 91 losses, Archie Manning.
Hey, I guess that makes sense. The
Archie
Saints
Manning
are awful.
and Derek Carr tied for most losses.
So who's going to be their coach now moving forward?
Their
who's taking over?
interim,
Yeah,
I don't know. It was somebody from within.
Well, I mean, that's the way it works. That's why firing coaches.
Enrique Bradfield was a minor league Gold Glove.
It's all coming up birds now, baby.
Yeah.
As our friend Eric Arditi would say, it's over for you hoes.
All right, Derrick Henry, real quick. So 7 straight games. Was it 7 or hold on? 10 straight. What game? How many games have they played? 9.
Who?
9.
Yeah, the Ravens, they played 9.
10th rushing touchdown in the season. He has there it is. 7 consecutive seasons. This is the stat.
Okay.
7 consecutive seasons of 10 rushing touchdowns for Derrick Henry, tied for the second most in consecutive seasons. I think they showed it on the broadcast. Who were the other 2?
I don't remember that.
One ahead of him and one tied with him.
Okay. Adrian Peterson.
Adrian Peterson had 7 straight seasons of 10 rushing touchdowns from 07 to 13. That is who Henry is tied with.
Emmett Smith.
Not Emmett Smith. Damn. This man did it 9 straight seasons, 10 rushing touchdowns.
Oh, it's not Barry Sanders because he didn't play that long.
Not Barry.
How about LaDainian Tomlinson?
LaDainian Tomlinson is the correct answer. Yes,
cool.
Well done. Well done. 9 straight seasons. And then I guess we can save the other one if we want to go. I'm trying to find.
You want to watch?
I do want. Yeah, I do want to watch
Charleston.
Where?
Which is going to be awkward because I got
Darren Rizzi.
I got to watch some WWE this afternoon. It's going to be awkward around here.
Too bad for you, I guess.
No, I don't
it's basketball day. It's college basketball.
I don't know if you call it.
Opening day.
I don't even know this. They don't call it Griffin Bass Radio. Is your name on the picture outside the wall?
Maybe soon.
Oh.
Special teams
What do you
coordinator
know?
Darren Rizzi is the
new Saints coach.
Yeah,
right. Good luck
coach.
to Darren Rizzi.
Yeah,
don't know exactly what he's going to do that's different, but hell,
17th head coach in franchise history.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Who are the other 16?
In Saints, how many of them could I name? Peyton, Allen, Hazlitt, Ditka. Do they count Joe Vitt when he was interim head coach?
Let's see. We're going NewOrleansSaints.com here. You said
I got Sean Payton.
Yes.
I got.
He is. Yeah, correct.
Yeah. Yeah, they snuck onto the list.
Yeah.
I got Dennis Allen.
Sure.
I got Jim Hazlitt.
Yep.
And I've got
You're in order.
Mike Ditka.
Yeah, those are the 4
So
previous.
they don't count Joe Vitt when he
guess not.
was interim coach when Sean Payton was suspended.
No, I guess not. Yeah, he's not on there.
Okay. Jim Mora.
Jim Mora, yep. You missed one 96 though.
I missed somebody in 96.
So I guess was Mora fired in 96? This guy coached 8 games in 96.
So he was an interim coach.
I guess so.
So why does that interim coach count, not the other interim coaches?
Maybe. Well, I'm on the Saints website, so maybe they want to try to get rid of.
They're trying to pretend like Sean
bury,
Payton was never fired.
Get rid of Bounty Gate or whatever.
I don't know who the interim coach was in 90.
Rick Venturi.
Oh, former Baltimore Colts assistant Rick Venturi, who did radio. And he's been on the show a handful of times. Rick Venturi.
He was 1-7 in 8 games with the Saints in 96.
Going before Jim Mora is tough. I want to say that Bum was the coach.
Bum was.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is kind of cheap because there was a guy. So I guess Bum must have been fired in 85. So there was a guy that coached 4 games. Wade Phillips.
Oh, wait. So wait. They fired Bum and then had his son step in?
Wow.
That's hilarious.
I guess so.
I don't think I can name one before.
78 to 80. All right, well, you did all the ones in your lifetime. That was.
Yeah, it's not bad.
That's not, well, I guess not Venturi, but
okay.
Dick Nolan.
Oh, Maryland legend Dick Nolan, of course, the father of Mike Nolan.
Hank Stram.
Hank Stram.
Sure,
Forgot.
okay.
No. He's one of the most legendary coaches of all time, Griffin.
Not with the Saints.
No, not with the Saints. The Kansas City Chiefs. He was the coach of the Kansas City Chiefs.
Ernie Hefferler?
Sure.
8 games.
I got nothing on that.
John North, Man, the Saints were
I thought
terrible.
he was a porn star.
From 67 to, I mean, they were not good until
until
Jim
they,
Mora
they
came
weren't good basically ever. That they lived
First 20 years
they
of their
fans showed up wearing paper bags. They called themselves the Aints.
Good one.
Like, this is the
Tom Fears, John North, J.D. Roberts, and Ernie.
I got
Ernie
nothing on
Heffer.
nothing on any of
Hefferly.
that. Nothing on any of that. All right, come on, hit the thing. I don't know why we just participated in that exercise.
Have you ever thought of taking a cruise to these wonderful destinations with sunny skies and beautiful beaches? Well, wait no longer. We're ready for you to cruise from the Cruise Maryland Terminal.
Have a little phrase that you can go from baggage to margarita in about 15 minutes.
Choose fun with an array of destinations, onboard activities, entertainment, and world-class cuisine.
Contact your travel agent and book your cruise today. Let your adventure begin.
You know, though, shame on them not including Towson legend Joe Vitt. That's pretty embarrassing for them to dismiss Towson's Towson's finest. It's not
How do I submit a complaint on their website?
you should. You as a Towson alum, you should be pretty pissed about this.
Couldn't call myself. Yeah, I wouldn't be able to wearing this sweatshirt today.
Yeah, right. And here you are, not fighting for the greatness of Joe Vitt. What's Joe Vitt doing these days?
Find out.
I would like to know. I like Joe Vitt. I believe his first ever coaching job was right here with the Baltimore Colts.
Joe Vitt. Wow, he's 70.
That's about right.
So maybe no need for him to really be doing anything, right?
I mean, if he's on the beach, we should call him.
He is. He was with the Broncos as a defensive assistant last year.
Ah! And here I am praising Joe Vitt, and if he's still a Broncos defensive assistant after that. Oh, that's rough. That's rough. That's rough.
I don't know. I can't find any updates before.
Well, his wiki seems to think he's still a defensive assistant for the Broncos.
All right.
And I was right. His first coaching job was with the Colts. I was correct about that. Look at me, king of Joe Vitt info over here. This guy.
The king of the Joe Vitts. Yeah.
All over it. All right, what you got? Oh, I'm my turn.
Yeah,
I do
yeah,
tubular. That's what you think?
Should be a big day at tubular. A lot of college basketball.
We're not going.
You're going to go over every single college basketball
game.
game.
Certainly
right?
not doing that. We're not going to be going over every college basketball game. We'll go over everything that's happening locally, though. We can do that. Yes, college basketball season does indeed get underway this evening. Normally, this would be your first opportunity. I can't. It's a conversation for another day. Whatever the Big Ten thinks they're getting out of putting some of these early season college basketball games on Big Ten Network Plus, there's no way. Maybe there are fan bases where they're willing to pay for subscriptions. The pain of college basketball season starting and telling multiple fan bases, but you don't get to be involved. At a time where, like, the Maryland brand is not strong enough for people to either say, oh, it's not on TV, I better get to the game against Manhattan. Or B, well, I'm not going to go to the game, but I'd be willing to check it out on TV. They're not paying for it. The brand ain't strong enough. I don't know if Purdue basketball, for being fairly good, but not even great, fairly good in recent years, maybe Purdue basketball is strong enough. Maybe Illinois basketball is strong enough. Maybe the legacy of Indiana basketball is strong enough. Michigan State, I don't know. But it's one thing if it's something that we already subscribe to. Peacock, ESPN Plus, something reasonable that sports fans would subscribe to. Thinking that you're going to get a ton of subscriptions to Big Ten Network Plus essentially makes you the CAA drowning with Flow Sports. Now, somebody might say, Glenn, you might want a job with one of these people at some point. Maybe you shouldn't say these things. And you'd be right. But I'm still going to be willing to say it. It's an embarrassment. You're not going to drive up Big Ten Network Plus subscriptions with a handful of low-level college basketball games from programs with weak fan bases. And that's not me calling the fan base out either. Nothing about Maryland basketball says there should be a stronger fan base right now. It's a fledgling program. Nobody's going to go say, I got to spend the money to watch them play Manhattan. It's embarrassing. Put it on the Fox Sports app. Hope that people will tune in for the product. The schools need to step in and talk to the leagues about their network partners and how they go about doing it. Because making it a pay service that no one is going – it's again, I don't like having to pay for ESPN Plus, but I at least get a ton of S out of it. All the Loyola games this year. All the UMBC games this year. Lots of college football. It makes sense. I'm a college lacrosse fan. Well, for you. The fact that I can watch all of the courts during tennis tournaments. I'm getting tons of stuff for my ESPN Plus subscription, which I don't like, but it makes sense. You're never going to get there with Big Ten Network Plus. Never. It just hurts the programs. That's it. And on a night where Griffin points out college basketball is back, this is your chance to celebrate, but now you're saying to a fan base, but not you. Not you. You don't get to be part of the party. It's just idiotic, man. It's just the definition of shooting yourself in the foot. And the trade-off ain't worth it. But if you're that hardcore, pluck down a few bucks. Maryland hosts Manhattan tonight at 7 on Big Ten Network Plus.
Northwestern somehow got on Peacock. They're
who are they playing?
Lehigh.
Yeah, okay. Big one. I mean, no offense to Lehigh.
Might be only 15 and a half.
A lot on ESPN Plus tonight. UMBC plays at 4, remember, because the UMBC women are hosting Maryland. That's probably the marquee, local college. I mean, Towson St. Mary's is good, too.
You got 2 windows, though.
But,
so.
Yeah, you can watch them both, sure. So Maryland, UMBC women at 7. The UMBC men play Penn State York at 4. Both of those on ESPN Plus. Columbia Loyola at 7. Navy St. Joe's at 7. Mount St. Mary's hosts Notre Dame of Maryland, the one that's right next to Loyola. Vanderbilt hosts UMES. Coppins at Wake Forest at 8. And then Towson St. Mary's at 10 on ESPN Plus. So a good night to have ESPN Plus.
Heck yeah.
Never a good night for Big Ten Network Plus. Morgan's at home against Frostburg at 7 on their website. And NFL Week 9 wraps up tonight. ESPN and ABC for Bucks Chiefs at 8:15. Manning Cast on ESPN2. And then all the college basketball. Go to Glenn Clark Radio. The big ones later on tonight. True TV and TNT for Texas, Ohio State at 10 o'clock from Las Vegas. And then ESPN2 for Baylor Gonzaga after football tonight at 11:30.
And, of course, get over to the Field of 68 YouTube channel.
Yeah, you got to get on that.
Got
to get on that.
Some great action in Sioux Falls.
Yeah, and then, weirdly, they're doing the bit on FS1 where they're going to, jump around from all of the Big East teams.
Oh.
So it's the same thing as what we talked about with the NBA. They're staggering each game by 15 minutes, but they're not, going to show any of the games in their entirety. They're just going to do, a whip around of all the Big East teams.
Big Ten Network did that, on a night like this, or do you think?
I don't know, because I think the trade-off for the Big East is all of the other games are on the app.
Oh, okay.
That's the big problem is putting it up behind a paywall and thinking that you're going to get people. Look, the Big Ten will say, we've got smarter people than you. You're getting a handful of people. It's the opportunity cost of how many people aren't going to be watching Maryland basketball on the night where the season is open. They haven't lost to anybody. There's reason to have excitement, all of that jazz. It hurts. It's just dumb, and I don't know who else is playing on the Big Ten Network Plus tonight.
It was Michigan and Purdue are the only two on BTN.
On the TV, I don't know who else is on BTN Plus. I don't know if Minnesota.
Everyone who
I don't know. I don't know what those programs where they're at with their fan bases, and I think USC is also on TV tonight.
Oregon's on Big Ten Plus.
I have no idea if Oregon basketball has a big enough a fan base that you can draw.
Michigan State's on BTN Plus. Penn State.
I only know Maryland.
Iowa.
You will get a handful
Nebraska,
of people willing to pay money. A handful.
Illinois. Playing Eastern Illinois.
That's what it is. As Jeremy mentioned, all the NBA games are tipping off 15 minutes apart from each other tonight. I don't know why that is. I don't know if it's a...
USC made Big Ten Network. I don't know.
Yeah, I just said that 2 seconds ago. You should have been listening. It would have been smart. Bucks Cavs at 7 on NBA TV. Sixers Suns at 10:15. Warriors Wizards at 7:15 on Monumental. NHL Network has Devils Oilers at 8:30. USA for Fulham Brentford at 3 o'clock. And then WWE Monday Night Raw at 8. Non-sports,
not a whole lot. No episode of What We Do in the Shadows on FX.
It's not. That's a whole lot.
Okay, sorry.
It's a good show.
I mean, that's
unlike most
just
everything
one thing.
Else.
The SNL election specials at 10 on NBC. If anybody wants
is that just?
I think it's just gonna be
clips?
A collection of what they've done.
Yeah.
Tim Waltz will be on Colbert tonight along with John Oliver. I don't know what they're.
Wait, John Oliver is on another late night show.
Yeah. Seth Meyers was doing it last week. He was on.
Dumb bit. I've said that before. It's
the World Series MVP, Freddie Freeman, will be on Jimmy Kimmel.
Yes. Promoting the election, of course.
With Allison Janney and Stevie Nicks as well.
Promoting. Can't even imagine.
Stevie Nicks and Allison Janney have
They're actually all going on tour together.
All three of them.
Yeah. Freddie Freeman, Allison Janney, and Stevie Nicks.
Allison Janney's in
The
Diplomat actually on Netflix.
Okay. All right. Very good. Thanks today to Chris Bumbaca from USA Today. Thanks to Femi. Thanks to Jeremy Conn. Thanks to Steve Wyche. You'll get all of it up in the greatest hits section of the
Here we go.
tab at GlennClarkRadio.com. Obviously, the Tuesday regulars tomorrow. Patrick Stevens. We start weekly conversations with him, and we'll recap the night in college hoops and preview waiver wire Wednesday with our guy Joe Serpico. And anything?
Mark Clayton will join us.
Oh, our buddy Mark Clayton, former Ravens wide receiver. He's very high about Deontay Johnson, so we'll talk to him about that. Thanks, everybody at PressBox, all of our great sponsors and partners, including Live Casino and Hotel, Cruise Maryland, Crown Trophy, Easy Pass, Royal Farms, Green Turtle Bet Park Sportsbooks in Towson and Canton, HelpMyGamblingProblem.org, the Costa Sin, MSAA, Baltimore Orioles, your local Toyota dealer, and BuyAToyota.com. Thanks to Griffin at Griffin_Bass. Follow us, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Glenn Clark Radio. Have a great Monday night. Go all the local hoops teams. Duke sucks.